Yeah, buddy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Here we are. We're doing it. We're going to be painting some more Tyranids, some Termagants. So we're going to be fixing the last two that we did last week. So we're going to be starting up a new one. Thanks for being here. Thank you for watching. We're going to watch a little Warhammer video action. Buddy, and I got the other camera also right here. That way. Oh, you can see what I'm painting. Yeah, we're trying it out and see how it goes. Hey, you guys, Germ Graves, what's up, buddy? I'm here just doing overnight at work. Damn, dude, that sucks. I'm sorry, bro. Grave sucks. I did Grave for many years. That's alright though. I mean, it's nice and quiet. You can do whatever you want for the most part. Watch shows. Crack open the drink. Let's see, I gotta get these paints ready. Hey, does my microphone sound off? Well, it sounds alright. I feel like I messed up some settings yesterday, but I sound good. I forgot to show you guys this last time, dude. So I got a. I'll fall asleep to your stream. Damn, I hope I'm not that boring. No, that's down. That's down. Thanks, dude. Tell the truth. I'm a streaming buddy. Hello, here we are. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna start painting. We're fixing our guys that we painted last time. Yeah, I went out of the lines a little bit. Now we're gonna start a new one. I got the other camera that I'm gonna switch to so you can actually see what I'm painting a little closer. What I didn't show you guys the last time I streamed, totally spaced. Somebody was getting rid of like a jewelry box kind of thing. Oh, whoops. Like a jewelry desk thing. This guy back here, and it's got drawers. That's where I put all my stuff at. I'll just bring you along. Here. Got my tools and such. Tools. For the paint. Space Marines, pyramids, they come down also. Stairs. Brushes and that helping hands. Spray, tape. Very good. Right now. We're working on it. We're doing it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Holy Mislo, huh? Damn. There's a guy in the back. Where? Oh, Goku? That's our guy. That's Goku. He's a badass. From Dragon Ball Z. Come out. We did a little bit of Dragon Ball Z watch parties on our stream. We were doing so much, we got burnt out, and we stopped after season 3, I think. Yeah, I finished season 3. Right now we're on break time from. I will be going back. It's badass. This new Dragon Ball Z thing came out recently, and I don't know. I think people are saying that it was pretty good. Is the music way too loud? Is that better? No, another streamer on the corner. Oh, the guy on the screen. So yeah, that's Wes Hammer. This video was recommended by Germ Graves. So we're gonna be watching that while we paint. This guy up here, right? Yeah. So we're gonna listen to him, see what he's got to say while we do a little painting. Yeah. Alright, I got my paint. What's it called again? Wraithbone. Cool. Got my brush, I got my water, got my wet palette. I think I'm good. Some chips, half a soda, Warhammer shirt. Yeah, dude. I think we're all right. I'm gonna toss on this video and kill the music. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Appreciate you guys and good stuff. Good stuff. All right, here we go with the video. The video is called "Is Corvus Corax a Giant Crow Demon?" Warhammer 40k Raven by Wes Hammer 1 year ago. 669,000 views. All right, here we go, you guys. Oh yeah, I gotta hold on. Give you volume on the show. There it is.
In the war-torn galaxy of the 42nd millennium, the ancient Imperial heroes of the past have begun to reawaken once again. The Primarchs, the Emperor's demigod sons, are one by one beginning to return to the setting. Most prominently, as of the time of this recording, we've seen Roboute Guilliman, Lionel Johnson, Angron, Mortarion, and Magnus the Red return in full force. There are, however, scattered rumors, sightings, and legends centered around many more of them, heralding their inevitable return. And one of the most interesting of these rumors centers around Corvus Corax, Primarch of the Raven Guard. If said rumors are to be believed,
we're just gonna do
he's
one
active
this time,
within the Eye of Terror, hell-bent on a singular mission of hunting down each and every one of the traitor Primarchs. But there are a few more extra details to these rumors that are admittedly a little bit disturbing. And this may not be the Corvus Corax that we remember from the Great Crusade. If said rumors are to be believed, then the Primarch has seemingly mutated into a terrifying crow-like demon, capable of harnessing the power of darkness itself to unleash all manner of bizarre and terrifying supernatural abilities. But is this actually true? Has one of the loyalist Primarchs somehow become a demon of order? A warp spawn abomination not in service of the ruinous powers, but one that fights in the name of mankind? To get to the bottom of this, we're going to track those rumors right to the source and examine a short story known as Shadow of the Past.
Damn, dude, so you finished your Skaven already?
Hell yeah. In 2018. A story that most of the community loves to quote into infinity, but most of us haven't actually read it. Not only is the story absolutely incredible, super dark, and admittedly kind of terrifying, but even more so, it contains some absolutely wild implications about the true nature of the Primarchs and what they're actually capable of. Also, fair warning, this is a word-bearer story first and foremost, which means it's going to contain a lot of uncomfortable subject matter, so just know that going in. So is Corvus Corax actually a giant crow demon? And if he's not, then what the hell is he? Well, in this video, we're going to be getting to the bottom of that and a whole lot more. But before we get started, I wanted to take a minute to talk about something that us fellas never really seem to take the time to think about, and that's taking care of our skin. Not gonna lie, it's not something I ever really took seriously. I was always a 2-in-1 body wash shampoo kind of guy. However, when I started working long hours in front of a computer, staying up all night editing videos, I started getting these unflattering bags under my eyes and just looked tired all the time. But that all changed when Geology reached out to partner with me to bring you this sponsored video, as they hooked me up with their award-winning skincare trial set that has made a huge difference for me. If you're not familiar with them, Geology is a 22-time award-winning men's skincare company that takes men's skin seriously. They create simple and effective skincare and hair care routines customized just for you, each made with no-nonsense ingredients that have been tried, tested, and trusted by dermatologists for years. Here's how it works. First, you click on the link down in the description of this video, which will take you to a 30-second diagnostic quiz. It'll ask you questions about your skin and what your goals are, and then them and their dermatologist will design a trial set just for you. And then, conveniently, it's all shipped directly to your door. For a limited time, Geology is hooking up my viewers with an absolutely insane offer.
Fast forward for this?
Right now, if you use my code HAMMER70, they'll give built upon a foundation of slave labor, ritualistic sacrifice, and sustained human suffering. Multiple.
Yeah, okay, no, never mind. We're good. We're good. Maybe we'll go a little bit further back. Actually.
E.com. Big thanks to Geology for partnering with me to sponsor this video. Our story begins within the Eye of Terror on the demon world of Sikaris, the new capital planet of the dreaded Wordbearers Legion. It is a hellish domain built upon a foundation of slave labor, ritualistic sacrifice, and sustained human suffering. Multiple garrisons have been raised as well as several blasphemous chapels constructed in honor of the ruinous powers. Surrounding the 17th Legion's ghoulish temples are miles of tent cities that house tens of thousands of human slaves. The scene is set against a sunless sky that is said to be so unnerving to look at that it seemingly
when you have 10 siblings, at least one or two is gonna be stupid. Damn.
Yeah, everywhere you look here, slaves are crawling, climbing, and
I know how that goes. Surface, well, actually, I don't. Well, I kind of do. I'm kind of an only child.
No real sense of purpose or self.
I'm an only child.
Broken people, miserable wretches that have had their will to live and all semblance of emotion, seemingly ripped out of them through a combination of exposure to the warp's horrors and the Wordbearer's infinite capacity for cruelty. These individuals have been so broken, in fact, that at one point in the story, one of the Wordbearers mentions that they may have gone a bit overboard, as killing them in their rituals doesn't generate much energy at all. The gods demand particularly brutal sacrifices, and the more pain, suffering, misery, and heightened emotions of all kinds involved in the act exponentially increases the value of the sacrifice. The Wordbearers, being the monsters that they are, though, work around this by simply sacrificing more of them at once to get the desired results. Their rituals serve all manner of dark purpose, but the major one is keeping a series of soul wards around the fortresses functioning. This is of critical importance to their operation, as it's the only thing that keeps the demonic entities prowling the planet's surface and the adjacent void at bay. It's important to remember that even though Chaos Space Marines frequently summon demons to assist them in battle, the Wordbearers possibly being most famous for this, they are under no false pretenses that demons are actually their allies. Demons are evil, twisted, manipulative, and above all else, incredibly dangerous entities. A demon can never be truly trusted, and the only way it can be used properly is if it has been bound to the will of a powerful summoner, and thus only shackled demons are permitted to exist within the boundary of the wards. The main character of this story is a Wordbearer known as Kulta R, a recently appointed Dark Apostle, and him and the legionaries that follow him are overseeing
Yo, Squall Rush, what's up, buddy?
Known as the
Damn, dude, I stopped by the stream earlier. You were like barely getting started, but I was just passing through real quick.
Watching the slaves
I threw up a comment in the chat, but it didn't go up. I'm not too sure why.
That another one of their brothers has gone missing and wasn't
I didn't really look into it. I was just passing through real quick. I was so busy today, fixing stuff, cleaning stuff. But we're back at it, dude. We're painting. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching.
Mount any form of actual resistance, and even if they did,
Area 51 in his house. Yeah.
The most likely culprit is that one of the wards had failed and a demon had gotten in.
Yeah,
when they go to inspect the wards, however, they can't find any fault with them. The barrier is maintaining, and nothing seems to be out of the ordinary. They had no idea what was causing the disappearances, but based on the energy within the runes, they could safely rule out that it was a demon. Just to be sure, however, the Dark Apostle commits to another ritualistic sacrifice, wherein he
buddy, no worries, man.
No matter how many he kills, though, the wards don't noticeably
would have been there longer, but like I said, I got busy, I had stuff to do.
Slave, the ritual is suddenly interrupted.
You know, I got the house to myself right now, and it feels like I can get more done
that the Dark Apostle had never expected to hear from a legionnaire.
And when you start doing stuff, when there's people here, it's like, oh, they want to help. Oh, let me get that for you. No, it's all good. I got it.
The Vox signal had originated from Brother Kyle.
Sometimes there's kids running around and they make a bigger mess than
investigate. They close in on his position approximately 30 seconds later and inform him that they had found him, or at least what was left of him.
We got a little relaxing time. We're only painting one today. Ooby, what's up, dude?
See this for himself. When he gets there, his eyes are immediately drawn to a group of 7 slaves standing near the body, with their heads bowed and eyes fixed on the remains. If this had been a demon attack, then
what's up, buddy? Thank you guys for being here.
When he shifts his gaze
dude, we're only gonna do one term again tonight. It took way too long.
It manages to unnerve even a Dark Apostle.
Doing 2 the other day, dude.
Not only had the victim been dismembered and decapitated, but the rest of
the remains
had been utterly
well, no, I had a lot of fun. I just
judging by the length of time of the
started getting burnt out towards the end. Started messing up. My eyes got a little tired.
Whoever did this had kept him alive, severing the limbs to incapacitate the prey before moving up and saving the head. We're just taking it slow. We're doing one today. He felt every agonizing cut. The Dark Apostle swings around and grabs one of the slaves by the face, demanding to know what did this and what they saw. The slave,
are you going to be playing any more of Squall Rush? Are you going to be playing any more of Wukong?
Picked him up
any more Monkey King action?
The word bearers argue back and forth with each other.
Or is it all about that new
had to have been a demon. There was nothing else that could do something like this. Whereas Keltal R
or did you finish it?
That the wards were sound. It wasn't possible for a demon to walk into this area from outside.
I have to go back and catch it.
I believe that it must have been the slaves.
Will you watch it tomorrow, Ubi? Yeah, man, I'll check it out tomorrow. I'm down.
That had been lurking in the darkness and waiting for the opportunity to strike. As illogical as it sounds,
yeah, dude, Halloween in 2 days. I'm stoked.
Perhaps the slaves had put all of their belief into this singular demonic entity and truly believed that it would save them. Thus, when it attacked, they had been spared. Furious over this realization, the apostle spins back around to the slaves, advancing with murderous intent.
What have you done? What have you unleashed, you gods damned Cretans?
He holds up his ritual blade to the group.
You are going to confess your wrongs, or you will know pain greater than anything you have lived through thus far.
Damn, dude. Savage,
said the slave. It backed away a step, holding up a hand.
Enough of your lies, scum,
said Arkula. He slapped a hand back across the face of the nearest slave, slamming it into a rough wall. The skull cracked hard, leaving blood on the pale plaster. Keltal R had expected an outburst, cries of anger, of pain. Not one of the slaves even moved towards their injured companion. He saw that their attention was fixed not on the wounded slave, nor Arkula, nor the Dark Apostle. They looked at something behind and above him, with a mixture of growing horror and disturbing smiles. He turned around quickly, pulling free his Crozius. The other legionnaires responded with him, bolters raised. A thing like a shadow waited on top of the wall. It was impossible to make out its actual shape, though there seemed something vaguely humanoid about it. Before any command could leave the Dark Apostle's lips, it sprang upwards, silhouetted against the ruddy sky. The shadow fragmented with an ear-splitting screech. Dozens of winged shapes fell upon the word-bearers, beaks like plasteel blades slashing at their armor. Horror went down under the first flurry.
Yeah, man, at your own pace, it's better to be slow than disappointed later. Yeah, dude, definitely agree with that one.
Barked Arkula. His commander's instincts
I did the two, and like I started getting a little not lazy, but like, my eyes were tired. I was struggling to see the fine detail.
Swiftly through the door. The word-bearers
and I started coming out of the lines a lot more,
leaving their comrades to their fate. The survivors gathered around the
Dark
Apostle,
try a different approach,
looking to him for guidance. But before they could make the next move, they heard a shout from over the Vox. It was Hasta, a legionary that was stationed on the other side of the fortress over a mile away. He yelled that something was in the eastern repository. More screams over the Vox.
I got you on in the background watching streams and doing my own a juggling act. Hell yeah, dude! No, at least you can do it. Like I've said before, I can't chew gum and walk at the same time, you guys. I mean, I can obviously, but I'm just saying I'm really bad at multitasking.
Black ooze was bleeding out of the walls.
Really bad.
Suddenly, the sound of bolter fire
like when I'm playing a video game,
over the Vox,
I can't really talk. Like if I start talking, I'll start like jumbling my words, tripping over them, and mumbling here and there.
As the creature began to hunt down and systematically slaughter each and every one of their brothers. Whatever this monster was, it was attacking
Don't get mad, but I set up my tree up in August. I wouldn't get mad.
Horrific abilities. Trying
if to anything, man, keep up your tree all year.
Logically about the situation. This thing couldn't possibly be as powerful as it appeared. Demons were known for their trickery, and if this was some
did you guys see that?
It wouldn't
Who saw that?
Them off one by one.
Oh, you couldn't see it.
Weren't going to do them any good.
The only way to deal with a demon like this
was to banish
it's only a little bit on the base. It's all good.
And turn it back against the miserable slaves that thought to trouble them with the detritus of their worthless prayers.
Sometimes these damn hands.
The location that they are in is not safe, but they don't want to abandon this facility as it's far too important to them. First and foremost, they have the demon to worry about, but if their theory is correct and it was summoned by the human slaves,
and that's what I'm gonna do. Hell yeah, dude. Stay festive.
These were trained Astartes, and one-on-one, an unarmed mortal.
All right, it looks like we got some good coverage on this guy.
There were only
a little bit right there in the chest. The chest is hard to get to, dude, especially when they're holding guns like in front of them.
They do not have the manpower or the ammunition here to deal with both that many slaves and a demon of unknown origin.
Hard to get up in
best bet
the
was
chest
to make it
area.
to the portal bridge on top of a hill in the waste, just outside of the temple on the other side of the rune barrier. If they could make it there, they could meet up with their brothers, as well as their Primarch Lorgar, if the threat proved to be too much for the combined force to handle. They ran towards the north gate, no sign of the demon or slaves marking their path. An ominous silence filled the air, accentuated only by the percussion of their boots and
take off your hat for
screams.
60 seconds if you like Christmas.
Okay. A large antechamber and came into contact with a horde of slaves. Their glossy-eyed demeanor from before replaced with twisted and desperate anger. The Dark Apostle pulled out his plasma pistol and launched a ball of searing energy into the closest slave's chest, instantaneously incinerating him. The other word-bearers followed suit, pulling out their chainswords before slamming into the frenzied mob. Although the slaves were fighting with the furious desperation of those who have for the first time in decades tasted hope, they were getting slaughtered.
Dude, it's looking good. Coverage is good.
And tearing while armored fists dashed heads against walls. Suddenly, the melee was interrupted by a vast
Christmas
dark
tree
shadow
should be up in July. Yeah, man.
Causing all of the slaves' eyes to twitch with its passage.
With no hesitation,
the shadow launched itself at the word bearers.
Hear that, Ubi? You messed up, bro. You should have had it up earlier, my guy.
It seemed as though an invisible blade punctured the word-bearer's gut and lifted him,
like right in between the legs.
In a shower of ceramite splinters,
like between the thighs,
and blood spray. Armor plates fractured as maws sank their insubstantial teeth into the Legionnaire, snapping limbs and rending bloody welts into the flesh within. His agonized bellows blanketed the box for a second.
We're gonna let that guy just dry for a minute or two.
Arkula threw himself at the demon, chainsword snarling. A bladed limb snapped out, taking off his head with an almost contemptuous swipe. The Dark Apostle cried out for his brothers to follow, and the survivors turned and ran, barreling through the narrow passages that led to the northern wall.
And since this is one of those
he believed that if the demon had truly been summoned within the ward circle, then it might not be able to pass through.
It was like
all they had to do was make it to the other side.
for a pack of 7.
This would, of course, leave them open to the hungering demons on the other side of the protective field.
Oh, the camera.
But in this particular circumstance, the unknown enemy
camera that's cheating. No.
hunting them. They ran as fast as they could, the Dark Apostle hearing the guttural wet noises from several of his battle brothers coming to the pursuing demon just meters behind him. He didn't look back as he ran, and eventually, sensing that at any moment he would feel
the have no hair, I could have little hair, I could have
he leapt out of the stained glass window into the open, gloomy expanse of the planet's surface below. He got to his feet and continued to run. Suddenly, he felt a physistatic pass through his body,
or
a sign
Leukemia Skywalker,
or the boundary wards.
I don't want anybody to put
only a handful of his brothers
three black dots on my head and be like,
of the demon, though,
those are the holes to your bowling ball.
There were, however, slaves laboring all over the place out here, attending to their tasks as if nothing had happened.
So for now,
after they regroup, the word-bearers moved up onto the hill that the portal gate was on and looked out over the expanse.
Oh yeah, that other little brush.
There was another group of legionnaires here, one in Terminator armor that the Dark Apostle recognized as Marduk,
so we got these other little brushes,
by Master Jarlik and Erebus. Kulthar demands to know where the Primarch is, and Marduk tells him to calm himself and explain what this is all about. Irritated by the first acolyte's tone, as it lacked any form of respect for one's superiors,
or maybe
the Dark
a
Apostle
0,
informs him that they believed the slaves had summoned a demon, and it had already slain half his company. Marduk looked at him quizzically and asks him if that's true, why the hell he would lead it here. They look back out over the expanse towards the inside of the rune circle and see another word-bearer rushing to meet them on the hilltop, when suddenly the ground beneath his feet begins to darken like tar, bubbling up from a pit. The blackness sweeping up his legs and swiftly engulfing him at the waist. The black mass swept upwards, lifting the helpless space marine into the air before twisting and turning his body into disturbing, unnatural angles.
Yeah, no, I just thought it'd be something to do. Maybe after like how many?
The demon shape dropped the remains and descended to the ground,
I'll
taking on a
do
vaguely
a
humanoid
no
form.
hat
It stood twice as
reveal
tall as a
at
legionnaire, and shadowy black wings flowed from its back.
500
its
subscribers.
Arms ending
Is
in
that
spear-like
is that down?
What have you brought upon us?
Said the
500's not
Terminator.
like
I had
too
no
much.
choice.
Said the Dark Apostle.
Not too far
Would have
away.
slain us all and come for you
We'll
without
go at the same
warning.
pace, maybe in another 4 years.
So it was for our well-being, was it? Look at it, brother. This is beyond us. We need the Urizen to face such a creature. You must call him.
Despite the Dark Apostle's demands, the Terminator says that the Primarch has far more pressing concerns than their well-being.
Anybody on Rumble, I'm sorry. I missed
drew
any of
their
your
attention
chat.
back to the Ward Ring, wherein the Legionnaires on the hill had opened fire on the creature, bolt rounds detonating across its
live
form,
and good
but
everywhere.
their
Thanks for
fury
being here. Thanks for
disappearing into
watching.
its darkness. Its advance never halted. The creature fluctuated, its dark, shadowy form suddenly switching to snow white, and two dark black eyes opened in the middle of its face. It lifted its arm, and forks of black lightning leapt from its outstretched hand, ripping through the body of a nearby word-bearer. Kalto R turned back to the Terminator and told them that they had to fall back to the portal bridge, that they had to fetch Lorgar.
That's how we do
they
around
then
here.
heard a voice as pure as molten gold.
Fetch.
So I'm not going to move or change for anybody.
And instantly lifted the Dark Apostle's spirits, filling his soul with
Marcus, what's up, man? Thank you for being here. Thank you for stopping through. Howdy, I hate painting white and yellow. That's all I have to say. Damn, that'll probably be super strenuous.
Wielding a wickedly spiked mace, standing.
Thankfully, I don't have to do anything yellow and white here
the
for me right now.
Of the primordial truth,
in this
the Primarch of the 17th.
Eventually, I probably will get there. I do want to try out painting the Sisters of Silence. Is that what it's called? Or Sisters of Slaughter? Maybe Sisters of something. And they're pretty badass. But they have do they have white and yellow?
And tells
They
his
might
son
have white and yellow. I'm not too sure.
that
I'm not 100.
was no demon.
I
The
see
shadowy
you and
figure had stepped
Squall
across the ward barrier
crashing
as
on
if it
different
didn't even exist.
platforms.
And at this point,
Yeah,
had
dude.
made its way
Yeah, no,
all the way up to the top of the hill. Striding
He's on,
through a storm
he's on
of
quite a
bolter
few
fire with
guys. I'm
relative
only
calmness.
on
It cast aside
YouTube,
Legionnaires
Rumble,
with sweeps of its
Twitch,
glittering
and
claws,
Kick.
leaving tattered remains
I might
draped
switch
across
to
the
something else
stonework.
later
Lorgar
on, but
pointed his mace
that's-
out at the
we're
creature
chilling.
and says,
Come to me, brother.
the apparition coalesced into a recognizable figure. It was of equal height to the demon
Wow,
Primarch,
dude.
clad in black battle
Perfect.
plate with long taloned
I got a
gauntlets.
perfect
A
line
pair
on
of
there.
wings
You guys see
stretched
that?
from its ornate
You guys-
backpack,
did that even-
fashioned
oh,
as
no.
intricate metal raven
Might
feathers.
probably a little
The
bit,
face
but-
was as pale as snow, gaunt,
Perfect
with
line
eyes
to
as dark
get
as
what I
coal,
messed up.
framed by shoulder-length black
Actually
hair.
looks great
Kalto
on that
R
piece.
felt his breath dying in his lungs as he looked up at the unmistakable features
Yeah, his
of
chin. I
Corvus
got
Corax,
chin all black
the
from the
Primarch
gun.
of the Raven Guard.
You can-
A flurry
you can
of
see that
questions
chin.
flooded his thoughts, but all remained unanswered.
Yeah,
as
that thing's
Corax
ugly.
spoke.
Yeah, dude.
What has happened to you, brother?
They're all wild.
I have
Everything looks
ascended,
crazy in this
Said
tabletop
Lorgar.
game.
He indicated Corax with the twitch of his rod.
I might
Then,
ask the same of you.
We might be
The Raven
playing a
Lord strode
little
forwards,
Space
intent
Marine
on Lorgar
tomorrow.
Aurelian.
Wait,
Kalto
tomorrow?
R and his
Wednesday night. Yeah,
warriors scattered
Wednesday
before
night.
him, grateful to be free of
All
his
those
wrath.
according to
Marduk and his
plan.
courtier closed upon their Primarch, but a
Space Marine
look
2.
sent them away.
I am what I have always been.
Said Corax.
I am
I gotta fix
vengeance
the chin.
incarnate.
You know,
I
I
am
got black on his
justice
chin,
delivered.
and it looks good after one coat.
This place
So I'm
beyond
probably gonna
the
do a
veil
second
has
coat just to
revealed
make it
what
look
we
extra
are,
good. But
underneath the veneer of humanity our father
Good.
crafted for
looking
us.
good, bro.
We are of the warp. Have you
And then his
come to
back
make
foot,
oath
I
to the
messed
powers
up.
that
It
are
looks like he
your
has high
true
heels.
creator? No. I swore to
We
destroy
don't
all
want high
chaos
heels on
taint
our-
from the
Come
galaxy.
again.
You will be the first fallen brother to die beneath my blades. I am not the creature you fought at Istvan,
Said Lorgar, raising his mace.
Lord.
nor am I.
Kalto R barely followed the lunge of Corax, so swift it was. A black wind threw him aside as dark fire crackled from the rod of Lorgar. With a thunderous shockwave that hurled the word-bearers to the ground, the two demigods clashed. After a long life of bloodshed and devotion to the true gods, there was little that awed Kalto R. The sight of the two Primarchs battling within the Empyrean sphere left him shocked and breathless. Infused with the raw primordial force, the combatants were ablaze with power. Corax seemed a towering storm wreathed in white lightning. The clouds formed a multitudinous ravens. Their cawing was deafening. The flash of their talons
I'm actually
going
to turn on
the spark
another
of the
light.
tempest. Into the shadow,
bright
Lorgar
enough.
rose like a fireball, alighting with a tornado of burning rune shapes. Meteoric
Give me
sigils
a
rained down on the
quick
Raven
second.
Tempest, cleaving ember-edged furrows through the dense mass. They slammed into the buildings around the bridge arc, shattering masonry and incinerating the corpses of Corax's victims. The Raven Lord struck back, hails of flaring claws ripping the air itself, leaving rents through the rune robe of the Urizen. Each stroke left a shriek in its aftermath that shredded the nerves as much as the talent shredded Lorgar's immaterial form. Kalto R flinched when the sweeping head of the Wordbearer's mace slammed into the chest of the storm-wreathed foe. The impact was greater than any thunderclap, leveling the walls around them. Rolling to his back, shattered stone pouring from his armor, The Dark Apostle watched the titanic combatants soar past. Corax was a quartet of gleaming spear talons driven through Lorgar's throat. The Urizian tried to lash out with his mace, but was held close by the Raven Lord's inhuman grip. Together, they crashed to the ground, their impact flattening again the few word bearers that had regained their feet. It's then that the Dark Apostle realizes that the wards are flickering, a bad omen of what was to come, as they were directly tied to the Primarch's will. He was losing. The two demigods were standing in the crater their landing had made. Lorgar, clearly badly wounded and panting for breath. Corax flexed his claw-like blades, his expression pitiless. He took a step towards his brother. In desperation, the remaining word-bearers opened up with their bolters and plasma pistols.
500 subscribers.
Lorgar summoned a nimbus of boiling hurricane-like energy that knocked Corax into the air, who then morphed into a flock of fire-eyed black birds that scattered in every direction to dodge any further attacks. This gave the word-bearers precious moments to escape, and they used them to run to their lord's side and help him through the portal. On the other side, they found themselves inside Lorgar's private sanctum. The group looked back at the portal.
I can see everything, dude.
Furiously scratching and pecking at the barrier.
It's like I'm going up against them right now.
Hard the frenzied swarm of birds attacked it, they were not able to pass. Lorgar stared back as his brother once again assumed his humanoid form.
I didn't even see I got him on the knee down there.
And one of his eyes was swollen shut. There
were
huge
isn't he
amounts
supposed
of
to be
damage to his
covered?
armor.
I gotta change that later again.
He leaned close to the portal, his one open eye boring through the divide.
I have your scent now, Lorgar,
growled the Raven Lord, his face contorted with monstrous rage.
I will find you. I will destroy you and every vessel you have filled with your taint.
Having seen enough, Lorgar closed the portal and staggered away. The Dark Apostle tells his Primarch that all wasn't lost, that they could rebuild. But Lorgar doesn't answer. As the group begins to walk through a large open door, it suddenly slams shut behind Lorgar, leaving the group behind. There was no visible keyhole or any way to open it, but there was, however, a single glowing Colchizian rune that translated to the phrase, "Deny Fate." Kalta asked Marduk what it means, and the Terminator says simply, "We wait for his return. Until then, the great work must continue."
Really good.
Farmer Boy's new chicken boxes are craveable and freshly cooked just for you. Choose a grilled or fried chicken sandwich or crispy chicken strips, plus fries and a drink starting at just $9.99. That's worth it every time.
Commercials. Hang on, let me skip that guy.
Here's what voting yes on 35 means.
Yes means keeping hospitals and ERs open.
Yes means more healthcare workers.
And protecting Medi-Cal for...
Jeez. All right, so we fixed up one turn in. We're going to put that guy aside for now. All right. Grab our big brush again, do the second coat on the first Tyranid that we painted a minute ago.
From this story. Well, first and foremost, we can certainly put to rest the idea that
Marcus,
Corax is
great.
a demon,
your model, paint it how you want to. Thanks,
that
dude.
It isn't. And if anyone can claim to be an authority on demons, it would certainly be the Primarch of the Word Bearers. But
I've seen other people paint their models like any color from any faction or whatever.
We would commonly associate with those who have risen to demonhood.
I'm probably going to stick to
somebody
what
who
they
has
want
given
me
their
to
soul
for this
over to
box
the ruinous
set.
powers in order to pursue the dark path of sorcery. I'm just
but eventually I'll probably
here
start
and
doing
say
my
that
own.
I'm pretty confident this isn't
my
what
own
happened, as out of all of the Primarchs,
color scheme to them.
considering that what happened to Corax and his legion on Istvan, he is potentially one of the least likely to commit such a heresy. I would put forth that what we are seeing is something indicative of what all of the Primarchs are capable of, but Corax is just the first of his kind. I believe that the Raven Lord has become an ascended Primarch. The true nature of what the Primarchs actually are has yet to be revealed and is left intentionally murky. We do know that they are a fusion of components from the physical and immaterial universe. We know that the God Emperor entered into some kind of agreement with the Chaos Gods on Molech, one in which he never intended on following through with. Regardless of what he promised the gods, what they provided in return was access to the raw energy of the warp, as well as the knowledge to combine it with his gene crafting to create his demigod sons. I've seen a lot of people in the community say that the Primarchs are essentially warp entities wrapped up in human flesh, and although that is quite the mental image, and not literally true, it's still a pretty great analogy for what they actually are. They're like the half-angel, half-demon Nephilim of ancient Terran myth. The Primarchs are entities of both the material and immaterial universe, each capable of remarkable abilities derived from both sources. Their abilities from the physical universe are represented through their enormous strength, speed, resilience, healing ability, and mental acuity, whereas their warp-born nature is reflective of certain powers that each of the Primarchs are able to manifest. When it comes to Corax, his signature ability was known as Wraith Slipping, and when utilized, it allowed him to erase all perception of his physical body from the minds of anyone around him, not literally rendering him invisible, as he could still be perceived by artificial constructs, but when fighting flesh and blood opponents, it was as if he was able to disappear.
The only thing I don't really like about my wet palette
with the shadows,
is
the
baking sheet paper
and then strike again from any direction. Bear in mind that this is what he was
I heard not to use wax paper
during the Great Crusade.
Why did they say
considering that by all accounts he has been in the Eye of Terror since then,
I don't remember what they
hunting
said,
down
but
the other
somebody
traitor
said don't use
Primarchs
wax
and has been
paper.
active the entire time,
Make sure you use like
it's reasonable to
baking
believe
paper.
that
I'm
he's
using
been
baking
honing that
paper, but
ability
it fell
to the point
apart.
of perfection,
Like
where it
if
has
I
now
scratch at it
evolved
too much
into
with
something far
the
more
paintbrush,
terrifying. Whereas before Corax
starts
was
to,
just
like,
a shadows
rip
appreciator,
like regular
he's
wet
evolved
paper.
into a full-fledged avatar of darkness, evolving his ability to simply disappear into the shadows into a whole swath of shadow-based powers. He can turn himself into a swarm of murderous crows to attack groups of enemies or avoid incoming attacks, strike in multiple
I feel like
locations
this brush is falling
simultaneously,
apart.
assume a form of
Keep seeing
shadow
little
or
tiny
light,
hairs
send
at the
crackling
tip.
waves of lightning out of his
You can
fingertips,
just like pull
and
out.
even create and weaponize the darkness itself, turning shadows into living weapons that can consume and tear apart enemies at range. But what evidence do we have that this is actually true? Well, we can look no further than the recent return of Lionel Johnson, as in his novel Son of the Forest, he gains the ability to forest walk, wherein he can enter the ethereal ghost of Caliban's woods, and by journeying through the forest, he can re-emerge from it any distance away,
That's
whether
pretty
that
crazy.
be directly behind enemy lines or halfway across the galaxy. This is not a power that he had during the Great Crusade, it's something that had awakened in him over time, and in the beginning of the novel, he has barely any control over it. He has to dedicate a lot of time and mental energy in order to master it, and by the end of the book, he's able to utilize it at will, even taking groups of Marines with him. I firmly believe that what we witnessed with Corvus Corax is something very similar to what we see with the Lion. However, considering that the Lion was asleep for an enormous amount of time, and Corvus has been training and honing his abilities ever since his disappearance,
almost there
I
on the
believe that the
second
Raven Lord's
coat.
powers have had far more time to reach even greater heights. It's important to note that time does get a little weird in the warp. Some of the Chaos Space Marines that were alive during the Siege of Terra 12,000 years ago only believe a couple of
I
hundred
don't want to spend too much time doing this, and I find myself like trying to do it all detailed. I just need to slap the base coat on there, right? Throw it on there,
for a few years,
just
centuries,
get it and
or even
go.
millennia. But it is worth noting that when he reveals himself in the story, Lorgar doesn't make any kind of mention of him looking like an old man, like what happened with Lionel Johnson. But I feel this could also easily be dismissed, considering that he's a being of living shadow with swords for fingers. The other possibility is that his evolution came from the mutating
A being
powers
of living
warp,
shadow
and that
and
very well
swords
may have
for
played a role in
fingers.
his advanced development, though we don't exactly know what prolonged exposure to the warp does to a Primarch. But considering their nature is a half-warp entity, it's probably not as dramatic as what we've seen with Chaos Space Marines. We don't see demons and other warp entities consistently evolving into more powerful forms just by existing within the Immaterium. I'll freely admit that a lot of this is just me thinking out loud and trying to put the pieces together, but there are a considerable amount of unknowns still. I believe that when Corvus Corax
dry a little bit more, and we'll do a third coat.
Games Workshop will give
We'll
us a
fix the other
novel
one that we were
makes a lot
doing.
of this more clear, considering that bringing back all of the Primarchs seems to be Games Workshop's current MO. What's truly the most interesting part of all this to me, though, is the implication that all of the Primarchs are capable of something similar to what Corax managed to accomplish. That the path to
Doing
demonhood
good,
that
my
the
dude.
traitors
Mistakes
chose
are
was
made on
only
the
a
path to
shortcut,
perfection.
that the
Take your
Loyalists
time.
are
Thanks,
capable
bro.
of reaching equal heights of power. What does this mean
Appreciate
for
that,
the
man.
Loyalist Primarchs that have yet to return? What would
Yeah,
an
I'm having
ascended
fun,
Khan,
chilling.
Leland, Vulcan, Dorn, or even Gilliman
Yeah,
look
no,
like?
I like this.
What
I
would
like
they
this.
be capable of?
This
Let me
is
know all your
down.
thoughts in the comment section below, as I'm always curious to hear what you all think. Anyways, that's really all I had to say on this one. I'm planning on making a lot more videos like this, where I take a common misconception within the community and clear it up,
Need a little more
while
paint.
also talking specifically about how the reality of said misconception is actually way more interesting than the misconception itself. Corvus Corax, for some reason becoming a giant crow demon, is definitely interesting, but the idea that he turned into the avatar of darkness itself through dedication, discipline, and an unquenchable thirst for vengeance is
having fun
so
is
much
number
more
one.
badass
Yeah,
to
dude.
me than him just being a demon for
We're
some
doing
reason.
it, bro.
Anyways, again, that's all I had to say. Big thanks to everyone who supports the work that I do, and I will catch you all in the next one.
All right, let's toss on another
I've
video.
treated many homeless patients in the county of Los Angeles. Many people end up on the streets because they have developed serious mental illness. Measure A helps move thousands of people out of encampments and into mental health treatment.
The Lost Chaos God, the Lion's Return lore. What time is it? We'll do the. Oh shit, we'll just do this one. Lost Chaos God. And if we're really far away,
if you're even the tiniest bit familiar with Warhammer 40k, then you can definitely name all of the Chaos Gods, right? We got Khorne, Lord of Skulls and Blood, Grandfather Nurgle, Lord of Pestilence and Disease, Tzeentch, the Architect of Fate and Changer of Ways, and Slaanesh, the Dark Prince and Lord of Excess. But what if I was to tell you that there was actually a super secret 5th Chaos God, one that absolutely hates his siblings and wants to burn the Pantheon to the ground? A lord of anarchy and destruction, whose followers fight against not just the Imperium of Man, but actively go out of their way to hunt down the followers of the other gods. I speak, of course, of Malus, the renegade god, one of the most cryptic and mysterious divine entities in the entirety of the Warhammer 40k
I am doing the Tyranids right now,
Termagant. A handful of times in a couple of different obscure sources.
Took me like 2 hours, so we're just gonna do one this week.
Characters in
Hopefully
the
we'll be
entire
done.
fandom.
Oh wait,
not a day goes by that I don't get at least a dozen people either asking me to cover him in my comment section or posting their crazy out there theories about his true nature. No, Malus is not one of the lost Primarchs.
Yeah, buddy.
But
thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. We're fixing the ones that we did last week. I did this one last week, and I came off the line from a few places.
And the biggest mystery of all,
fix that right.
Is Malus actually canon, or was he squatted out of the story? Well, today we're going to be getting to the bottom of that and a whole lot more, as there's a lot of misinformation about Malus out there. But first, a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, and then we're going to dive headfirst into the Grimdark. If I'm being totally honest with you, that's Geologie.com, Geologie.com. Big thanks to Geologie for partnering with me to sponsor this video. As many of us are well aware, the 4 ruinous powers are not the only
malevolent entities that
exist in the realm
not a hair,
of
but like
chaos.
one single
dozens,
bristle
even
sticking
hundreds
out.
of lesser chaos entities that are ludicrously powerful in their own right.
Like, what's the best way to get rid of that? Just flip it with like,
chaos god.
Scissors.
However,
or
if the rumors
nail
are to be
clipper or something.
believed, buried deep in the shadowy places between
kind
the
of like
planes dominated
just
by the primordial
in the
four,
way.
exists another, feared by all the rest. An entity whose name is only whispered in secret by even the most devout followers of the ruinous powers. A creature of unimaginable strength who seeks not victory through domination, but outright oblivion through eradication. A renegade, a lost shadow, a parasite.
Everything that I thought looked terrible when I went out of the lines is looking great now that I'm
siblings. I speak,
fixing
of
it.
course, of the 5th Chaos God, known simply as Malus. But what exactly is Malus, and what are him and his followers all about? Now, if you've been part of the community for longer than a week, then I'm sure you've seen his symbol of a black and white skull posted somewhere on the internet. Malus is the renegade god. He is known as the outcast, the lost, the hierarch of anarchy and terror. Once described by one of his early concept artists as like Khorne, but way more evil. He's often depicted as a chaos god of anarchy,
it in water,
whose
then
followers
try
adorn
and
their
gently
armor in
twist the
black and
brush
white
back
and
into its
hold the
original
number
shape.
11 as sacred.
All right,
Malus
I'm gonna try
is
that here in a
gluttonous
second.
god that demands ritualistic
But
sacrifice
it
be
almost
made in
looks
his
like
name every 100
like
years
one single
in
bristle
order to
like
forge
might have
legendary
separated
warriors known
at-
simply
at the-
as
at
the
the-
doomed ones.
at the tip over here,
These
the metal
immortal
tip,
champions forged
and like
in
it's
his
starting to
name
fall
will
out,
lead
so it's
his sons to
longer
certain
than
victory. Unlike the
all
other
the other
Chaos
bristles.
gods, who are
Like
locked
one
within the realm
single
of chaos and can
bristle.
only interact with the material realm through their fanatical followers, the followers of Malus have demonstrated the unthinkable ability to literally summon him directly into the material universe. The summoning of even greater demons is said to be something that can only be done by particularly large and powerful cults. Entire planets that have completely dedicated themselves to their worship and willingly offered their souls as payment for even the briefest of manifestations. As far as we're aware, the summoning of any of the other Chaos Gods is a complete impossibility. And unfortunately, that's about it. That's pretty much all we actually know about Malus. The concrete sources we have access to are incredibly limited. Malus himself was only ever mentioned in one canonical source in Warhammer 40k, and although we know a bit more about his sons of Malus, there still really isn't a lot to go off of. But if we're willing to broaden our interpretation of what is and isn't canon, and get a little bit flexible with the lore, we actually have some sources that give us a lot more insight into the nature of the shadowy deity.
I'll try to fix
it. To get a better understanding of
whatever I can to do to
know about another character known as Malal. This is the entity that Malus is believed to be the spiritual successor to. It's important to remember that the origins of the 40k universe as we know it have their roots in Warhammer Fantasy. Warhammer Fantasy Battles was the original creation by Games Workshop that would later give rise to its sister franchise known as Warhammer 40k. The basic pitch during these early days was what would happen if we took all of these factions and characters from fantasy and placed them in the grimdark future instead. If you're familiar with both franchises, this is why the Chaos Gods exist in both pretty much unchanged. And just about every other faction within 40k has a fantasy counterpart. You have things like the Craftworld Eldar, which represent the High Elves, the Drukhari, which are supposed to be the Dark Elves, Sigmar and the God Emperor both being remarkably similar, Beastmen existing in both universes, Dwarves and the Leagues of Votan, the list just goes on and on. Some elements, like the Chaos Gods, were imported into the new setting pretty much unchanged, whereas others had their histories and aesthetics overhauled in order to fit the new setting. However, over
Lego's
time,
badass, but this is like on a whole new level.
On its own identity, and with each passing year, it would separate itself further from its Warhammer Fantasy roots. But even to this day, those links to the past are still on full display if you know where to look for them.
I lead an organization whose mission is affordable housing. Prop 33 would sabotage our work to solve the housing crisis.
I got two big ones.
33 would reduce new construction, making it easier to block affordable housing across the state and creating scarcity when too many families already can't afford a place to live. 33 means less housing when we desperately need more. So join affordable housing experts and leading newspapers. No on 33.
Wait, can I skip it? Stupid. I didn't catch it fast.
I'll kill you if this is a joke.
Malal was another Chaos God that existed in the early days of Warhammer Fantasy. Here's a bit of the background fluff that was written about the character and his most esteemed champion, Caleb Dark. There is a name whispered quietly and with fear, even by the most depraved, the most evil, the least sane of the worshippers of Chaos. That name is Malal, the renegade god of chaos. Any man who dare look within the unholy black pages of the Great Book of Despair, that foul tome held sacred by worshippers of chaos, would find the following words. And he that went before now came last, and that which was white and black in all directions was thrown against itself, grown mightily indignant at the words of the gods. Malal did turn his heart against them and flee into the chambers of space. And no man looked to Malal then, save those that serve which they hate, who smile upon ere misfortune, and who bear no love save
all
for the
you new
damned.
subscribers, I appreciate you. Thank you.
As a warrior's heart turns to Malal, all gods of chaos grow fearful, and the laughter of the outcast god fills the tomb of space. In eons past, Malal was cast out from the bosom of chaos by the other gods, or else abandoned them of his own volition. No one is sure which. In any case, Malal's relationship to the other gods of chaos is a strange one. All gods of chaos pursue purposes that are wholly their own, yet only Malal occupies a position so resolutely parasitic upon his own unfathomable creed. To be a follower of Malal is to be a chaotic warrior bent upon shedding the blood of other chaotic creatures. As such, Malal is both feared and hated by the other gods. Malal's worshippers, too, are loathed by other chaotics. They are outcast, beloved by neither the friends nor enemies of chaos, dependent upon the least whim of their patron deity. Few men worship such a god. Fewer still
after
live
this
long
video, I'll
in
toss
his
it on.
service. The bonds that tie master and servant ever drain upon the soul of the warrior, and it is a rare man that can loosen those bonds once forged. Caleb Dark is the greatest among such warriors. The doomed ones is what they are called amongst men, whereas the souls of lesser servants shrivel long before they can gain real power. Those whose service remains true may gain immeasurable benefit. Caleb Dark enjoys the favor of his insane god, for his resolve is incredibly strong, perhaps deriving vigor from some dark aspect of his personality, some event hidden deep within his past or subconscious. None would dare inquire of the man himself, of his origins and his initiation into the cult of Malal. No one can do more than guess of his might of arms, undoubted courage, and potent unholy weaponry. However, all know at least the most horrific details.
Figure out
Caleb
a good
Dark's
way
story
to
would be
mount
told
this
in a
camera
4-part
up
comic
somewhere
series,
where
the fourth installment of
I
which,
don't have to
titled
have it,
God
like,
Amok,
in between
was
my
never
arms.
actually released. It premiered in the Citadel Compendium in December of 1985. The story would follow and document the journey of the
Are
titular
Nids going to
Chaos
be your
Warrior.
primary
Under the directions
faction,
of his
or are you
patron
still
deity, he journeyed to Prague, which had come under attack by the forces of Khorne. Caleb comes to their aid and slaughters the worshippers of the Blood God. The Grand Wizard Walpurgis believes that he is the chosen one spoken of in prophecy and dictates that it will be him to release the goddess Arianka. The story is absolutely dripping with quintessential 80s dark fantasy, and it's easy enough to find online if you want to read it for yourself.
40K
So let's recap
introductory
real quick.
set.
Both Malal and Malice are
And it
renegade
came
chaos
with,
gods of anarchy,
see,
whose followers
it
owe
came
no allegiance
with
to either
5
side.
Infernus
Both of their
Marines, 10
exalted warriors are
Termagants,
known as
and
the
1
Doomed
Ripper
Ones,
Swarm.
and both entities share the exact same symbol
So
of a
I'm
black
going to be
and
doing
white
these
skull.
guys.
There
I'm
is
going to
no
be
doubt
doing
in my
them the way
mind
the
that
box
Malice
says,
is the
but I
spiritual
started with
successor
the
to
Tyranids.
Malal.
So we're going to do the
But what
Termagants
happened to
first,
Malal
and then I'll do the
originally?
Space Marines
Why
once
was
I
he
get
not
a little
included in Warhammer 40k?
a little
if
more
so
of the
many of
feeling
Fantasy's
and less of the
factions,
shakes
characters,
of
and
the hands
deities
when I'm
would
painting.
survive the transition to the grimdark
Nice.
future?
Thanks, bro.
The
Yeah,
long
dude.
and short answer is,
This is
legal
my
trouble.
first time.
You see, copyright concerns
not my
had
first time. This
arisen
is the
at this
third
point
stream,
on
but this is
who
my
exactly
first
owned the rights to
box
these characters.
experience
Was it
to
Games
Warhammer.
Workshop, or was it the original author of the comic? The important thing to bear in mind
this the
is that
fourth
around
stream?
the
What's
time
my
that the
title of
character
my
Malal
stream?
was first introduced to the
Oh,
community,
dude, it is part 4.
the chaos
Yeah,
itself
yeah. So the
hadn't been
first
fully
first
fleshed out
video
yet, even all the way back
we did
then
an
in
unboxing,
Warhammer
I think,
Fantasy.
first.
The concept
And then the
was
second
still
video is
malleable.
putting
The image on screen is a page from the
actual
first
plastic
edition
together.
of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay,
the
wherein there's a
and
couple of brief mentions on
getting them
different
all
deities
set.
that can be found in the old world.
And then
Nurgle,
last
Khorne,
week
and
we started
Malal are
painting.
listed as
This is
3
our second
possible
week
chaos gods, and the reader is told to stay
Some
tuned for a future
thanks, dude.
supplement
I
known as
appreciate
the
you
Realms of
guys.
Chaos that would further elaborate on them.
Yeah,
By
we're
the time
gonna
this supplement
once we
would
finish
finally
the term
release,
again,
the legal
I'll
trouble
be going
surrounding the
to
character
the
would
Space
have begun
Marines, and hopefully
and
I'll have
concluded.
enough
Thus, when the Realms
enough
of Chaos
XP
finally
under
hit
my
the
belt
shelves 2
to
years
not
later
ruin
in
them completely at
1988,
first.
Malal was not included. Rick Priestley, who was one of the 3 inventors of the
actually
original
looks pretty
Warhammer Fantasy
good.
Battle and played a major role in the production of its counterpart that we know as 40k, said this when asked about the legal
Now we're gonna
troubles
do the
surrounding
third
Malal in an
coat
interview conducted
on
by
the
the website
Termagant again.
Realm of Chaos 80s.
The one we're
Malal
doing
was
right now.
invented for a comic strip without any reference to the actual
down
Chaos
for now.
gods. I think the comic strip author just wanted to set something up that wouldn't muddy our background and which he could manipulate as he wanted. Whoever arranged the deal
We're
didn't
very
think to
happy
make
with
it
this
clear
right now.
that the work would be a genre.
We're very
based and
happy, you
hence
guys.
Games Workshop property. And when it came down to it, the author claimed ownership of the IP, and GW had to
Bring this
abandon
guy
it.
on.
Clash of cultures, really.
We're gonna
In the
give
games
this
industry,
one
us poor
more
games
full
writers are used to
coat,
this kind
space
of thing.
coat.
And not so in the
I
world
gotta
of
keep
comics.
in mind,
So
be
back in Warhammer Fantasy,
generous
Malal
to
was
it,
only considered canon for a
and don't
couple
take
of
too long,
years.
'cause it's
And
just the
although he
basic.
may have never made it to the universe of Warhammer 40k, Malice and his sons did. The Sons of Malice are potentially one of the most mysterious and alluring chapters in the entirety of the setting, due to their lack of concrete information and real-world courtroom drama that surrounds them. But for many, that drama only
Get it
deepened the
covered,
mystery
get
and
it
attraction.
covered.
They have inspired magnitudes more fan theories and speculation from the community than any other faction. So let's talk more about the Sons of Malice. The early history of the Sons of Malice is one that is clouded in mystery, but it is stated that they were one of the 20 Space Marine chapters, known as the Astartes Priestess, who were made with the specific goal of guarding the Eye of Terror. By this point in time, Abaddon the Despoiler had launched many of
That's
his
what I
Black
gotta keep an eye
Crusades
on too.
that
If I put too
inflicted
much water and paint on my
unquantifiable
brush,
amounts of
then like
damage to the
all the
Imperium.
detail
So it makes
disappears
total
off of
sense
certain
that they would
spots.
want a buttload of
I have to
Space
like
Marines to guard
brush
the
out,
entry
like
point
absorb
into
it,
the
put it
physical
somewhere
universe.
else,
Their
absorb it,
original
put it
chapter
somewhere
name has
else.
been lost to time, so for the
Absorb
duration
it,
of this history segment, I'm
put it
just going to
somewhere else.
refer to them as the
This is
Sons
so
of
cool, dude.
Malice. They would end
I've-
up serving for over a millennia
I don't think
in the
I've
service
ever
of the
painted a
Emperor,
miniature
defending
before.
mankind from all manner
Like
of
thinking
heretical
back
and
on like
Xenos
ever
threats.
doing anything like
Within
this,
the rebellious
the closest thing I
Silence
ever
system,
did
there
to
were
painting a
several worlds that
miniature
were
was
home to
in a
hive cities that
ceramics
existed
class
deep
in high
beneath the
school.
ocean.
They're
Traitorous
like,
heretics
oh,
had infested these hives
have you guys
and
ever
threatened
had
to
a ceramics class
depressurize
where you do the
condemning
light
the
bulb
entirety of their population to a
superhero or
watery
something?
grave. It was the Sons of Malice, captain of the first
You
company,
get a light bulb,
Cathal,
you cover it
and
in
the warriors
ceramic,
under his command that were
and then you
instrumental
take the
in
light bulb
scouring
out
the
of
traitorous
it,
forces from these worlds.
and
This all
it's
happened
like a
during the
hollow
Silex
ceramic thing, and
225th
that's supposed to be the
campaign.
head of your
After these
superhero.
events, the first company would honor their accomplishments through a
That's like the
prolonged period
closest
of
I've ever
celebration
done to
led by
painting painting miniatures is
But unfortunately for the Sons, said celebrations were observed by Inquisitor
Have you seen Ricky's videos yet? Yeah, dude, we saw some last week. We were watching a whole bunch of them.
Inquisitor witnessed
I'll toss one out on after this if we're still doing. I mean, if this is still going,
what could be considered cannibalistic.
We're having a good time, so no reason not to
is not 100% out of the realm of reality for many loyalist chapters. The Blood Angels
when my eyes start straining, that's probably
this particular Inquisitor had either never witnessed such practices within other chapters, or the particular manner in which they went about it was incredibly disturbing to her. The details on this are not very clear, and the only sources elaborating on them exist as small chunks of flavor text in older codexes. The small insight she gained into the rituals of the Sons of Malice was enough for her to declare their censure. She called upon the Adeptus Sorora Celestins to mobilize a strike force that would be deployed from orbit in a series of drop pod assaults. This would land them smack dab in the middle of the First Company's celebrations. If
so funny how when you blaze something, it's like not even close to the color it's supposed to be until it comes out of the kiln.
Against them under the reasonable assumption of deviancy.
I could never work the wheel, me either.
Disturbed her enough to immediately condemn the First Company to death. The company was described as a frothing horde of fevered maniacs that had whipped themselves up into a state of animalistic barbarity. They witnessed proud Astartes warriors completely drenched in gore, blood and froth running freely from their mouths
you use the wire
as they gorged
to separate,
upon the flesh of the defeated men and women of the previous battle.
Comes off the
an
wheel
orgy
easy.
of cannibalistic
that shit would always
sacrifice.
come out
Realizing
lopsided.
exactly what the sisters'
Like
presence meant,
somehow
the Fall
I
gave
didn't
the
get
order
it close
for the
enough to the
company
table.
defend themselves.
Annoying.
It is said they fell upon the Inquisitor strike force with
the
a
big
savagery
3 Bricky
she was
videos
wholly
are his
unprepared for.
every
The sisters
faction's
fought bravely,
explained,
but
both
the animalistic
part
fury
1
of
and 2,
Cathal and his men
his
was too
every
much for
Marine
them,
Legion
and they were
video
quickly
and his
overwhelmed.
timeline.
The sisters were slaughtered.
You know,
and the
I think
Inquisitor
I've
was taken
seen
captive. She would be
the
dragged
part
up
1 and
onto one
2
of their
of every
altars
faction
and
explained. I think we saw
ritualistically
that last week,
sacrificed.
maybe.
This treasonous act earning them their excommunication. Now, the previous account came from the book Index Astartes 4, which was published
We'll go to
in
his page, because what I did is I went to his page and I started
clicking
on videos while we were doing this.
We're given another passage
so I'll have to go back to his page
and
check. We're going to watch a different video after this. It's only 5 minutes long.
Interesting ways.
What was it?
First and foremost, Inquisitor Pietas is called Solomon Pietas,
Saturine,
and their gender has been changed from
and
female to male.
Fulgrim
Not a particularly
confrontation.
relevant detail, but it's worth highlighting.
Recommended by
Additionally,
Marcus.
The account says that the Sisters of Battle
it's amazing
that were
by
recruited by the
Rufus
Inquisitor
Deuce.
were from the Order of our Martyr.
But yeah, after that video,
they
I'm
would be
down to go to
supported further
Ricky's
by
page and
5
toss one
regiments of
on.
Imperial Guard. The biggest difference between these two accounts, and potentially the most important, is that after this event, the chapter was not immediately
Heads up,
declared
don't breathe in primer or resin.
More than what had happened
Yeah,
would reach
buddy.
the High Lords of Terra.
Yeah, we want
even though the
to
exact
keep that
reason
stuff out of
the
our
attack
lungs
had
for
occurred in the
sure.
first place did not. Regardless of the reasoning, the Sons of Malice had killed an Inquisitor
only
and
Prime
multiple
outside.
royal sons and daughters of the Imperium. The High Lords
Plenty
would
of
send an
fresh air.
envoy to the Sons of Malice, who offered them a chance to repair their sins by going on
Point
a 50-year
away from
penitent
faith.
crusade. Their chapter master at the time refused their offer, as from his perspective, neither he nor his brothers had committed any sins, and though loyal subjects of the Imperium was trying to turn their back on them. He told the envoy that they would accept no censure and do no penance. This was not a declaration of war, however, as the chapter master was described as an incredibly honorable man and allowed the Imperial envoy to depart unscathed. You see, the tradition of cannibalizing the enemy was something that was deeply rooted in their culture, as it had been practiced on their homeworld of Skelos
500
for
points of
thousands of
models
years,
in my
even before the
room,
chapter was formed.
And I forgot to open the
Sons
window.
of Malice carried on the tradition, even though they didn't
You
speak of
poor
it
guy.
openly with outsiders. The real tragedy is that if circumstances had been different,
All
the Sons most
hallucinating.
likely would have been forgiven and remained loyal. However, shortly after the envoy departed, the report from the Inquisitor themselves made it all the way to Terra.
Damn,
His
yeah,
words
dude.
were urgent and frantic, speaking of acts of diabolical hedonism that reeked of the occult.
And
With
I
war
primed
so
my guys
close to the Eye of
outside
Terror, the High Lords were not
on a
willing to
stick. I
take
taped
a
them all to a
chance,
stick.
and within 2 months,
On some
an
of these bases,
extermination
you'll be able to
fleet
see
arrived
like
in the Skelos system.
where
The
the
Sons
tape
of
was
Malice
on
would
top of
escape
it.
their judgment upon a battle barge known as the Labyrinth, but their homeworld was left undefended,
Black is where
making
the
it
tape
easy
was.
prey for the forces of Cadia that scoured the planet of human life in a brutal campaign
The worst part
of
is I
fire
can't
and
smell,
murder.
so I-
On the run and with nowhere to go, the Sons of Malice fled into the Eye of
Ugh.
Terror. They had no kinship with the
That's
other
wild.
traitors that were being hunted by the Imperium. Thus, they fought off both of them for centuries until
Wait,
at last,
you can't smell
Abaddon
like
the
at all?
Despoiler managed to bring them about to his cause. They had been driven directly into the arms of the enemy they were created to destroy. It was sometime after this that they would abandon their old chapter name and instead be reborn in the image of something far more sinister. A patron deity whose name is only quietly whispered
I'm
with
sorry,
fear,
bro.
even by the most depraved, evil, and insane worshippers of
well,
chaos.
I hope that comes back one day, anarchy, or whatever can be done to fix that.
The renegade god.
That's
For
some
those
BS.
who try to take care of everything,
COVID was
we're here
BS.
to take care of you.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into it, but yeah, I hope you get well soon, man. That's
the better grease getter.
With their homeworld destroyed, they would begin a tradition of meeting once again every 100 years on the Labyrinth, the battle barge that had shepherded them
since
to
you
safety.
can't smell,
this was a ritual the
does
Sons
that mean
of
you can't
Malice
really
took very
taste anything
seriously,
either still?
And it is said that no matter what they were doing,
that's the worst.
or what
That's
blood
torture.
needed to be
That's
shed,
living torture.
They would drop
bro.
everything to journey back here. We are given a bit
I'm
more
craving
insight into
something
this
such and
ritual through the
such, and
short
it's like,
story
oh,
titled The Labyrinth
well,
by Richard
even if I'm
Ford,
eating it, it's
which
not
was
like I get
published
to
in the
enjoy
Heroes
it.
of the Space
Oh, your
Marines
taste is fine.
anthology
Oh,
series
good.
released in 2009.
That's a
Considering
win
that
in
this
my
short
eyes.
story
But yeah,
is
dude,
the
that
best
knows.
source
Sorry,
of lore
bro.
that we have on the Sons of Malice.
We'll have to take care of that.
Surprise!
Somehow.
We're going to be doing a quick grimdark story hour. The story follows the Sons of Malice Space Marine known as Invictus, who seeks to prove himself this night and have all of his brothers witness his greatness firsthand. The story opens with all of the Sons of Malice coming together aboard the Labyrinth, a gargantuan beast of a ship that was covered with dents and surface burns. Invictus thinks to himself that it is a wonder the ship survived at all, as it was floating loosely in space and was completely undefended from the prowling Imperial forces. In order to properly conduct their blood rites, each and every ship that has arrived has come bearing hundreds of slaves that they have taken from across the cosmos. It was said that amongst their ranks were members of every known sentient Xeno species. The slaves and the Sons themselves are loaded into Thunderhawks that cross the void into the Labyrinth's docking bays, where they then corral their quarry into its great halls. Their ritual comes in two parts. First, the feasting in glory to Malice,
pretty neat.
where the
Hell
Sons
yeah, dude.
remove their armor and
that's what I like to hear.
Positivity
Positivity and everything, bro.
gorging themselves on blood and gore. And
some people are
remains onto the
cup half empty kind of people.
The second part of their ritual is conducted by their chapter master, Lord Cathal, who, if you remember from earlier in the video, was the captain of the first company when they were originally declared traitors.
Which one are you?
There are a lot of blank spots in their history, but I guess by this point he's actually taken over complete control of the Sons of Malice. He tells his brothers that the offering of 1,000 souls to Malice this night certainly pleased their patron. Though, as they all knew, in the coming crusade, they were going to need warriors particularly blessed by their unholy master. He speaks, of course, of the Doomed Ones. Now, each century, when the Sons of Malice return to this ancient carcass of a vessel,
Socrates, what's up, my dude?
Face the
thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Socrates.
But it was said that those cunning enough to overcome said trials would be
elevated
to
bro.
the ranks
Hope you're having a good week so far. You're chilling. We just finished our base paint for the term again.
And were sent off to walk the dark paths of the galaxy. It was a position that Invictus had coveted for a long time.
Wait for that to dry, and we're gonna give it another.
The chapter master asked his
purple,
brothers, who amongst them was willing to face
the other guys that I fixed up from last week. They're looking good.
20 warriors in total stepped forward.
A lot better than last week. I came out of the lines in so many spots. Wow, I came out of the lines on the head, and I missed it. I gotta fix
was
that.
just a simple, unassuming door.
I found the dome.
He tells them that all that would enter here do so unarmed and unarmored. There was no rank within the labyrinth, and all were seen as equal.
Yeah, dude,
they must use whatever resources they are able to scavenge, and must have faith in one another in order to survive. Their ultimate goal, to reach a portal on the far end of the ship.
The latest
Any that could
Mortal
locate
Kombat
it and step
so
within
much,
its hollow confines
first one from the 90s?
would receive the benediction of Malice. Those who could not would find nothing less than oblivion. Their chapter master says to all those I will never see again,
do they really?
Die well, my brothers. And with that, he turns the great wheel that secures the door shut, revealing a chamber of suffocating darkness. Once they are all inside, the hatchway is sealed shut behind them. The members of the warband have to take some time for their eyes to adjust to the darkness.
The newest one was just okay. Yeah, dude, I agree. It was alright.
They can find to use as a weapon. A few lucky warriors
the first one was better. I mean, let's see.
From the
what did you like more?
Astartes, who had failed
Mortal
to
Kombat Annihilation,
whereas others break away bent pieces of rebar from the floor and columns. They decide to split into smaller groups, as if this place is as dangerous as they have been led to believe.
I didn't like Annihilation that much, and it's kind of competing with this newest one, the 2019
Invictus's
version.
group ends up encountering some type of monster with pockmarked skin and jagged teeth that lunged at them from out of the darkness.
Mess it up if I don't use
one
the
of their members
goggles.
apart before eventually being put down. Upon examining the corpse of the creature, they realize it is unlike any Xeno species they had ever seen. And most bizarre of all, it bared a very familiar branding, the black and white skull of Malice. The fact that an unknown xenospecies was dwelling in these dark depths at all was cause enough for alarm, but the fact that it bore their holy symbol was even more perplexing. Over time, the labyrinth begins to take its toll on the group. Hidden Laswire beheads Brother Kato, whereas Brother Valius was crushed by a blast door that at first seemed inoperable when he went to pry it open. And Brother Mortigan ended up getting doused in corrosive waste. With each and every death, Invictus can feel the icy hand of death creeping ever closer to him, but he continues to push on. If anyone was going to survive this trial and become one of the exalted doomed ones, it was going to be him. Eventually, they found themselves at the entrance to a large chamber, its floors peppered with huge holes. Despite the pitfalls, there didn't really seem to be any traps. Invictus is incredibly nervous, however, but he doesn't realize why until he suddenly notices that the stench in this room was identical to the one that was coming off of the beast from before. It's in that moment of realization that one of the creatures lunges from the shadows at him. The attack is met with volleys of automatic fire from his battle brothers, as more of the creatures begin to funnel into the room. In the ensuing carnage, one of the creatures manages to get the upper hand on Invictus, tackling him and knocking them both over the edge of the pit. Invictus strikes the ground hard, knocking him unconscious, whereas the creature ends up impaled on some bent and twisted shards of metal at the bottom. Some amount of time goes by, and eventually he comes to.
Placebo.
He readies himself to move through the darkness and find a way back to his brothers, when all of a sudden, a hand reached out of the shadows and grasped his arm. It was another son of Malice, but one he had never met before. Unfortunately for this warrior, he is clearly undergoing the telltale signs of mutation. His arms are covered in weeping pustules, and there's fledgling talons poking out from just under the skin. He asked what happened to him. The warrior tells him that the prolonged exposure to the labyrinth starts to change them. He had volunteered for the trial a century earlier, and warns him that their chapter master was not telling them everything
a little bit of lore in the background.
That him and 5 of his brothers had made it all the way to the portal, but after one of them passed
Sons of
through,
Malice,
it ceased to operate for the rest. They had been trapped down here for a century.
We're gonna be watching a 5-minute video after this, and then we're gonna be watching some
Due to the warp touch nature of the labyrinth, survival meant nothing. It wouldn't be long until he joined the ranks of those monstrosities that prowled in the dark confines of the ship. Invictus asked the Astartes which way was out, and he points in the opposite direction.
Marcus, I have no idea what that means, but it sounds
right through the hive of other mutants. Before he's able to leave, the man asks him if there's a favor that he could do for him. Without any more words between the two, Invictus raised his bolt pistol and fired a single shot before turning and walking off into the darkness. He works his way through the tight confines of the ship, the scent of the creatures and the sounds of distant bolter fire growing stronger the deeper he goes.
Children
Eventually,
models.
He comes to an opening where he finds another group of his brothers fighting off against the mutants. One of the Marines is firing belts of billowing flames
no worries, bro.
with an ancient flamer he must have scavenged. And to Invictus's surprise,
nice, thanks, bro. I appreciate it. Yeah, no worries, man. Handle your kid. Do it to it. Have a good time.
The day they were both recruited on their homeworld of Skellis. He joins in the fight and helps them push the creatures back. But the noise of the battle was attracting more of them. The group moves into an old airlock and seals himself inside.
I've seen some other streamers kind of like just be like, "Yeah, kid, thanks."
Desperate to get at the Astartes. Despite the creature's constant banging,
yeah, dude, I gotta go. I gotta take care of my kid.
So they take a minute to catch their breath. This is where Invictus tells the new group of what he had learned. That the portal would only work for one of them, and the rest would be doomed to join the ranks of these hellish monsters. There's an immediate sense of unease as the Marines look back and forth at one another, but Janaris tells them that they should deal with this later, because whether or not that was even true,
that's what I definitely want to do one day is the Necrons,
and the ancient weapons they were using to defend themselves had a very limited supply of ammunition. Here's the thing, though. Their suspicion of one another would end up being well-founded, for as they continue to make their way, Invictus would end up betraying his brothers one by one in ways that made it look like an accident. He knew what had to be done. He knew what Malice was demanding of them, and he knew he was the only one worthy enough to step through that portal. The group continue to make their way through the ship, fighting off the mutants and avoiding traps. A few of them are claimed by the beasts that lurk in the shadows, and Invictus picks off a few more members on his own. Eventually, the group faces off against an enormous mutant, the creature killing more of their members until it was only Invictus and Janaris left alive. Invictus tells his brother that he only had one shot left in his pistol, and he needed to make it count. Janaris agrees, throwing the flamer into the beast's mouth.
Well, maybe I should wait
fires the shot
a couple box sets before I get there.
They continue to make their way until eventually they finally find it. They come across a giant glowing portal. Janaris turns to his brother and tells them that it was fitting, considering their long history that they had together, that they would be the final two left, that the two of them would have to turn on one another, as only one could go through the portal.
that they would duel with honor, with their bare fists and their resolve. That despite their terrible circumstances, Janaris was looking forward to their fight, as theirs was a kinship forged in 1,000 battles, and the victor would be the one worthy enough to enter the portal. Invictus tells him that that would be the case, but he had lied. That wasn't really his last bullet.
Yeah, they look badass. I saw
now
like
alone, Invictus strode towards the pulsing
had a video
and stepped over
doing
his
a
threshold.
Necron, like, just
he found himself standing in the center of a wide circular
rock,
platform,
practically
with
floating there, and
runes
had,
carved
like,
into its
shrubs
base.
and
his mind was
lightning
with
coming out of the ground with like wire. It looked
whenever he
way
tried to focus
sick,
on
dude.
them, they would disappear. He looked
Doubt
around,
mine will
and
ever
surrounding
look
the
like that.
platform
Well,
was a
maybe
containment
one
shield,
day when we're
which struck him as odd, as
when
he
we're
didn't
vetted
understand
nicely.
why this place would need
But
such
yeah,
a
dude, looks
safeguard.
way sick.
Past the containment
Definitely
shield,
want to get my
he
hands
could
on
see
one
the
of those.
legion of his brothers,
And any of
clad in
the
their
big
battle
mechs,
regalia,
the big
holding the
mech
standards of their
machines,
chapter. He realized that
the Space
portal must have
Marine
led
ones, not the
back into
cow
one of the
ones.
great
The Space
halls.
Marine ones are
His
like
brothers had come to witness
I wanna
his
make one of
victory,
those, but
and thus his elevation to
I
the
hear
ranks
they're
of the
very
doomed ones.
expensive.
He could see the chapter master and his librarians entering into view and walking in the direction of the platform,
lay down some of
dragging
this
behind
purple
them
paint.
10
Oh,
large
I'm gonna go clean out my
The purpose
water.
of them was unknown,
Yeah, dreadnoughts.
but it filled
Yeah,
Invictus
yeah,
with
yeah.
dread. Slowly, each and every one was
I'm gonna
opened
go,
to reveal a blank-faced, paralyzed warrior, each one
replace the
bearing
water
the
up there.
symbols of the Sons of Malice. He realized that each of them had been a champion of the trials in a previous century, and that he was going to be the 11th. The chapter master announces to the warriors that for 1,000 years they had searched for champions worthy of their dark god, and now all 11 would finally be assembled. None would stand in the way of their holy crusade to take back their homeworld of Skelos. Not the ruinous powers, nor the worshippers of the Corpse Emperor. Not with him by their side. He tells Invictus that he was truly worthy to call himself a son of Malice, and asks if he can hear him calling. He had come to the labyrinth. He had come to walk amongst them. There was a flash of eldritch light around the platform, and Invictus feels himself frozen in place, unable to speak. He senses a massive, malevolent presence in the room. He sees the outline of some enormous thing up in the rafters that stared down with baleful eyes. Something wicked in the dark. The librarians begin to channel their power, funneling it into the caskets and the platform that Invictus was standing on. Eldritch flames engulf his body and each of the paralyzed warriors. Invictus screamed in terror and pain as the flesh began to burn from his bones, but no amount of screaming could stop what was coming. As his body was consumed, he realized that not even the kind release of oblivion would save him now. The Sons of Malice watched as 11 of their greatest champions were consumed by the light, their limbs emulated, their torsos eviscerating, their heads contorting and twisting, writhing within a pool of black light. In a single terrifying instant, they were gone, and what stood in their place was no longer their brothers. They had gone to join the ranks of the legendary Doomed Ones. What stood before them now was the revenant that they had worshipped for millennia, the Eidolon that would stand at their vanguard as they retook what was rightfully theirs. He could only be summoned by sacrifice, only by giving unto him their best and most praiseworthy warriors. And there he stood, the renegade god, the outcast, the lost, hierarch of anarchy and terror, Malice.
I probably used too much paint, but no worries.
And that was the story of the Labyrinth.
Everyone is gangster until you take
on the Sons of Malice
3
that we
land
actually
raiders,
have. Sometime
all
later,
filled
however,
with
after
sword,
the events of the story, the Sons of
bros?
Malice would find themselves joining
and just
in the
YOLO
13th
against
Black
your
Crusade.
opponent.
Their role is detailed in chapters 2 through 6 of the novel Cadia Stands. They are presented the opportunity to ambush
YOLO,
the ships
bro.
fleeing from Cadia, and they take an
Dude,
absolute
as long as
perverse
it's fun,
delight in their
I'm
slaughter.
down.
As they
I don't
routed
mind
them
losing
to
it
the
as long as
Battle
I
of
have
Bates
fun.
Anchorage.
I've never
These
been like a
Cadians
sore
had no
loser,
idea
really.
the sins their ancestors had committed
Sometimes a
against
sore
them,
loser
how they had
back in the
scoured their
day
world,
getting
killed
killed
their way
over and
of life,
over by
and
the same
drove them
team on
into the eye of
Halo
terror.
matchmaking.
But the Sons of Malice were more than
But,
happy to teach them all about it through a campaign of terror
you know, like
and
when
slaughter.
there's nobody
An
on, you get
interesting,
matched up
albeit
with those people
disappointing
over and
note
over
about
again.
this
Not over
particular
and over,
story
but like
is that at no point is the
good a
actual
few
deity
times.
of Malice
Like these guys
mentioned or
again,
even
damn.
referenced. This doesn't necessarily indicate a change in canon, but his absence was
Thought about
definitely
doing
a
a
bit
necro army
disappointing.
with
One thing
30
that does seem to be pretty
blade
consistent in
ones.
this depiction when compared to the older lore is the taking of slaves.
I don't know
As
what
their
blade
assault
ones
on
look like.
Faith's
Let me
Anchorage
check that out
included the
real quick.
deployment of thousands of slaves they had kidnapped from the world of Agrippina's hive forges. They injected
10
them
games
with
and won
stimulants
0.
that turned them into frothing lunatics and set them loose to the
Man.
loyalists.
All right, that's
That's
gonna make your
They were ultimately
when you get that win, it's gonna make it
last
that
one of the
much sweeter.
Cadians. In the final moment of the story, the one surviving general of the Cadians' forces limps out onto the battlefield, mortally wounded, clutching a las pistol with only a few shots left. The adjutor of the Sons of Malice tells him he will give him one last chance to repent, to forsake his oaths to the false emperor and join their cause. If he did this, he would let him live. The old general smirked, raised his pistol, and shouted "Cadia stands" before he was put down. This is unfortunately as far as their story has been written in the current canon of Warhammer 40k. However, I will point out that out of all places, the Sons of Malice would appear again in the video game Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2 as an enemy faction, wherein the cutscene associated with them not only briefly summarizes their story, but indicates the world of Skelos was not as empty and barren as the Imperium had been led to believe. There had ultimately been some survivors there, and over time, it reverted into a feral and barbarous world. The Sons of Malice still laid claim to the planet, and had been using its current inhabitants as inductees to further fill their ranks. Whether or not the events in the 40k video games are or are not canon is something that the community has debated forever. I personally tend to lean into the camp that says that they aren't, mostly because any game that has multiple factions will also have multiple endings, and they can't all be canon. Although in this particular instance, it does line up with what we are told in the Labyrinth, that their ultimate goal was to crusade to retake Skelos.
Oh, you have to glue them together? There's no like
for a pretty long time.
popping them in with the little pieces?
This being canon is not
seen a lot of people
out
like
of the realm of possibility.
They just
but we'll
glue
have
them
to wait
together.
until
They don't
the next
even
time they get a story written about them to confirm or
bother
deny this.
the
Sons of Malice are a
sometimes
beloved
cut the little
faction that
pegs
have
off,
inspired
and they
more
glue them the way
debate
they
and
want
theory
to, and
crafting than
make them
just
do
about
different
any other
poses
faction
and
in the
positions.
entirety of Warhammer.
Crazy.
Not a day goes by that there aren't
wild
dozens
to
of
me.
posts made about them on Warhammer forums and
Some
comment
real,
sections across the internet.
some real
But the sad
DIY
reality
stuff.
is that there just isn't a lot of information to go off of. There's not a lot of concrete canon about them that we can point
really?
to. They've never
Damn.
received
So it's probably just a
dedicated
starter
novel,
set that
and
I'm
we've
doing
only
that
ever
didn't
been
require
given
glue,
the
huh?
briefest
It even
glimpses
said on
into
the
their
box,
histories
no
and
glue
motivations.
required. So
We as the audience
I guess
have
that's
two
a
options.
that's an actual
The
feature.
first is
No
that we
glue
consider
required.
only the Labyrinth and the couple of brief mentions that the Sons of Malice have had in official codexes and the
Kit
novel
bashing is
Cadia
fun.
stands as the only actual canon. Which, if
Once
we do that,
I get a
then the
difficult
Sons
kit,
of Malice
probably my
are
next one.
definitely still an
Man, I'm
interesting
gonna bash
faction.
on this one. This
But
one's taking
we
me
don't
forever.
know anything about Malice
Good though.
himself.
I like it.
The only thing that we can actually
I like
confirm
this, you
about
guys.
him
This is
is
dope.
that he's some type of deity that the Sons of Malice worship. We don't know if he's actually a chaos god,
Yeah,
some
the
kind of
water
greater
down
demon.
just a
We
little
don't even know
more.
what his motivations are. The idea that he hates the other gods, which most people would consider fundamental to the character of Malice, it
Yeah, most
technically
factions have at
wouldn't
least one
actually
easy to put
be
together
canon.
kit.
Which
That
leaves
doesn't
us with an
need glue.
interesting
All right.
mystery, but not a very interesting
That'll
character.
be my
The
where I
second
start
option
then.
is that we incorporate everything we know about Malal into our understanding of Malice, which, considering that the vast majority of lore centered around the other ruinous powers is nearly identical between Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer 40k, is not an unfair way of looking at it. We just have to do so by attaching a big asterisk to what we think we know, that technically speaking, none of that has been confirmed in 40k itself. It's up to you how you want to view the character and what you want to treat as canon. It's my personal belief that he
Get
exists
up
as
in
something of a
there.
meta Easter egg, a reference to a convoluted point in Games Workshop's history that has spiraled into an absolute phenomena within the community. We'll just have to wait and see if Games Workshop ever wants to do anything more with this character and flesh them out further. But as it stands, the vast majority of information that exists on the internet about Malice stems from decades of fan theories and speculation. But what do you guys think? Is there anything that I failed to cover in this video that you think is really important to know about Malice? What do you think Malice actually is? Is he a demon? One of the lost Primarchs? Or a full-fledged Chaos God that is destined to destroy the other four? Let me know all of your crazy theories down in the comments section, no matter how out there they are. And while you're at it, let me know what other topics from Warhammer 40k you'd love to hear me talk about. A lot of the times you guys suggest things I've personally never heard of, and then when I go to read about them, I end up finding something truly amazing that I fall in love with and wouldn't have known about it if it hadn't been for your recommendations. So keep the suggestions coming. Big thanks to everyone who supports the work that I do, and I'll catch y'all on the next one.
Oh yeah, dude. We're gonna give him a thumbs up. We're gonna check out that 5-minute video and then we'll switch it over to Bricky for something. Most of my Necrons are kit bashed in some.
Take action with Rogaine, the number
Wait,
one
kit bashed is a thing? Like
brand.
that's
Rogaine.
something. What is kit bashed? I thought we were just bashing on kits.
This video is.
Come on, dude.
Your pretty wall is broken, Rogel. Your famous fortress is undone. You're a man in a broken tower. You stand so proud and so defiant, ignoring the fact the tower is falling around you. It's
Okay.
So
no worries, I'm down.
Rogel. No words of denial. No pleading for me to change my foolish ways and come back to you. You can tell me it's not too late. You can promise me sweet forgiveness.
Deeds are my words.
Always. You were never the wit, never one for fine conversation, just hard at work and... Are you really not going to try and convince me that I have made a mistake? Talk me back into the fold where I can make amends?
No. I'm just going to kill you.
Ooh, tell him
now. How bold! How empty. Look around. I said, look around. Look around! Look around! See what's happening, Rogel Dolt! Your tower is tumbling down. No more running to daddy crying. Look what I've built. It took you years to make this, and in one night I rolled down upon you, cracked your shield, and built a foothold.
Look, I don't have to. I see it all.
All what?
I see your siege machines burning at the foot of the wall. I see your sonic weapons silenced. I see your host foolishly committed in its entirety, pouring into a run of wall that can be held by a force a tenth that size, and is held by a force a tenth that size. Imperial fists, now bolstered by the 200 legions of Astartes veterans I brought with me. 200 veterans who are skilled in every doctrine of war, who have rallied this garrison and this wall stretch, and are now slaughtering the vanguard you so wantonly committed. They thank you for giving them such a wealth of bodies to reap.
That's alright, we'll fix it.
You have no foothold.
I have!
No.
Kit bashing is adding something that isn't part of the model to the model. To make it look better. For example, like had a bunch of
you
rubber
committed
gloves
everything against a gap that could be held. You've burned the cream of your host for nothing. Made
I
them
see,
cannon
I
fodder.
hear you.
9,000 dead and counting.
I probably won't be doing any of that for a while.
I know everything.
That's some serious stuff right there.
You've let yourself be used as a distraction. You've let your host be decimated for nothing. The Saturnine ruse, I know about that too, has failed. Perturabo played his move and lost his piece. You're just a pawn. Was it the Lord of Iron who fooled you into this? Lupercal? Abaddon? You must have been willing. Were you getting bored with it? The spear tip is broken. You're holding a gate for no one. You're just an idiot standing on a wall.
It failed.
I'm not trapped here. I'm not under siege today. You are. And that's why I'm going to kill you.
Well, what a mess.
It
really failed then. The Mournival plan.
It did.
Good one for turning
They
to
are
get
all
Luca.
dead.
Oh.
Ooh.
You do.
Wow, dude.
I wanted a scalp. I wanted his head, Lupercal.
We're on them.
But
Wow,
you
dude. That's epic.
a traitor Primarch.
I'm gonna take a picture of that. 'Cause I'll forget, and just in case I forget,
but there are things
I want to remember.
you don't.
Thanks for the tip,
Name
man.
one.
Way down.
One, I can't die. Two, I am sick of all of this. All of it. The others can find a way to grind you down and bring your fortress low. I cannot die, but I feel the pain, and I won't take any more of it. 3. I hope our father burns when the time comes. I hope Lupercal turns him into a screaming corpse. But you won't see that, Rogel. You're the one who dies here.
Try me.
Oh, video's over. That was pretty good. Towards the end there, I missed a little bit of it. I'll rewatch it again. No. Go back to Bricky. Where's Bricky at? Oh, there it is. Bricky. Go to his channel. Oh. Go to this one.
Hello, everyone. I don't have a normal sponsor today. Instead, I wanted to talk about my own stuff. I have a merch store, and I don't.
There we go. Oh yeah, that's what I had trouble with last time. So Bricky doesn't really have like a playlist just for the Warhammer, does he? Because I see playlists on here, and it's like a bunch of stuff, but for Warhammer, wait, yeah, no, it was better if I just kept it on the.
Advertise it a ton, even though
it's better if I just look at it from the search thing. Oh man, all right, let's see. Dark Tide Revived. I haven't seen this one. Wait. Every single Warhammer Space Marine Legion Explained. I thought I watched it. Alright, let's watch that one then now. Did it? Okay. I mean, as long as I did. Yeah, part 1, part 2, and part 3. Oh. Yeah, not too sure. I mean, we could do this one, I guess. Every single Warhammer Space Marine Legion.
One day, a god.
Or, oh wait, no, this is by Morlore. Never mind. Oh, Bricky. Dark Tide Revisited. We'll do this one. Dark Tide Revisited.
Sometimes.
Violent crimes in LA County
tournament bids are pretty good for learning strats. Okay, I'll check that out.
And burglaries up 8%.
I did subscribe to a channel that does
violent crime
like
down.
not tournaments, but like a
violent crime has gone up
game
every
between
single year.
Two guys, I guess.
You know, crimes do not go up or down because of who the district.
Looked pretty dope.
Sometimes.
Definitely want to learn so I can play a game one day.
Good, very yummy, but meal prepping it, not the best. Kinda dull, not fun. So why not pay someone to do it for you? And go ahead and check out this video sponsor, Factor. In fact, with fall now currently here, you can try all types of delicious fall
I think that's what it was.
All from Factor. They meet all the requirements you were hoping
Maybe.
for.
Do they wear like
Bulk,
shirts?
they got you
like
covered. You're trying to cut, they got you covered.
They all have
high protein,
matching shirts.
Keto, doesn't really matter. Anything that you want, you can go ahead and get with Factor. The meals are super easy to make. You simply throw them in the microwave for a couple of minutes and you are done. There's no setup prep for yourself. There's not an astronomical amount of waste. It is simply a lovely container, microwave, done. You eat, you enjoy, and you become healthier that way. And personally, it's the best tasting meal prep I've tried. And if you want to try Factor yourself, you can go down to the description and go to factor75.com and use code BRICKY50 for 50% off your first order. Factor75.com, link in the description. BRICKY50.
That's not the one that I.
Thank you, Factor, for sponsoring this video, and let's purge everything.
See if I can find
Dark Tide. It is a video game. You can play it. I have made videos on it, both when it came out and also quite a few with my streams as of late.
Don't you just hate it when a beast of Nurgle blows its thick, chunky load into your healthy breakfast cereal?
Wow. It received one of its largest and most expansive updates yet that comes with major overhauls to the gear system as well as talent trees for each of the individual classes. The question has been posed many times. Is Darktide good now? But the problem with that question is that it's asking the wrong thing. It's not about whether or not Darktide is good. It's about whether or not Darktide is complete. Now, I hold the rather hot take that Darktide has always been a good game. What I'm looking for in the title just wasn't what everyone else seemed to have been looking for. I wanted a game with a great 40K aesthetic, solid co-op gameplay, and a general, I'll run a few games mentality to it. I was looking for 40K Left 4 Dead. I wasn't really looking for a live service, long-term grinding kind of game. So, in a sense, I always got what I wanted. I played about 40 hours, felt satisfied, and put it down. To me, Darktide was always good. And if good is the wrong word, then I can say Darktide was always fun. Its issue was that it just wasn't finished. It was underbaked and it underdelivered. And it needed another full year in the oven before it should have been released. But those days are behind us. And the game has received its substantial new update. So how is it? How is the game as a whole now? Well, for starters, it definitely runs better than before. Optimization for the most part feels a lot better for me. And it's not perfect. I can still see it chugging during some of the more crazy parts. But for the most part, the game seems to be moving at a pace that is substantially better than it used to be going at. Visually, the game was always very pretty. Everything looked great and felt great. Get it, so keeping up with its design aesthetic is fantastic. I love to see it. It still might be the game that gets the Warhammer art direction just let him say it how he Nothing so far really grasps the universe this well, even though it's not I want to say it right, or else I'm not going to say it at all. The fact that the game just runs smoother with this look is awesome to see. There are also some new weapons that were added to the game for the various classes. Not a ton, but since the launch of the game, there has been more, and that's good to see. Also, a few more missions too, which is nice. 40K missions here in Tertium kind of look the same a lot of the time, but the objectives are different, and that is also, once again, pretty neat. But let's talk about the meat of the update, the class overhaul. Before, you just had the skill trees down the line as you leveled up, and that was not enough to make interesting and varied choices in the game. It works for a beta, not a fully released product. Now, each class has 3 separate trees you can go down. Normally, they go along lines of damage, support, and some kind of third option that is varied. Before we even get to the skills, I want to point out the artwork. Games Workshop is once again completely horrid at showing off the full artwork of their products or at crediting their artists, so all I can do is show you it via the in-game menu. But look at that artwork. Each of them is specific to that particular class gimmick.
That might have been
gimmick. So you see the veteran, for example, you got the gun-toting version, the commissar / leader version, and the sneaky beaky like version. The zealot, the ogre, the psyker, all the art just bangs like it always does. Credit your artists, GW. Let them post their work, please, because this shit is awesome. That aside, the way the skill tree works is that each level gets you a point. Then you normally go down the various trees to determine how you want to build your character. And let's take, for example, the veteran. These classic gunman shoot guy and also the Imperial Guard are extremely cool. Each tree has that was it. That sounds like hella familiar to it, along with some smaller perks and other base stat upgrades. Those are your grenade, aura, ability, and final modifier. For the vet, his grenades are the Shredder Frag Grenade, Crack Grenade, and Smoke Grenade. Each of them have their own utility and function. Then you have your auras. This is always some kind of buff that affects those in your aura. Darktide really likes it when you stay as a team, so for the veteran, it's either damage,
or maybe I didn't subscribe to it, dude, and maybe I just thought I did and I wanted to, but I didn't.
Much like the artwork above, each skill delves into a particular part of the
I had to roll my R's, but it's
you either have the front and center damage dealer, great at popping heads and just outputting efficient firepower. Then you have the
you have to roll your R's
concept.
to
I guess it's more of a sergeant, if anything,
army?
the leader, the born leader.
That's a little difficult. I don't know if I would have obliged them. I've been like, nah, sorry, bro. I'm just gonna say it like this.
Your allies. Then there is infiltrate, which is the sort of stealth mode that allows you to go about where you need and do the guerrilla tactics that a lot of guardsmen are known for. These can be upgraded in tons of fun ways too, with various perks that affect your ability specifically. Voice of Command has an amazing ability that reduces its range but revives downed allies when used. Then finally, you have the last modifier. This is normally just a huge bonus in some way, like massive damage or defense buffs or a crazy stacking.
The knee pad.
Of course, despite each tree going with its similar vibe, left for damage, middle for support and tank, and right for movement, you can bounce around if you'd like, and have additional points to spend even when you get your final option completed. So if you want a smoke grenade but still want to do volley fire, that's totally an option. The Zealot has a similar concept to them. There is a main charge move, a special defensive aura, and a stealth ability too.
A little
unsure why they
of
have the
purple
stealth
paint on his
option
elbow,
when the Guardsman
but
also
we'll
has
fix
that
up.
option. I feel like the last thing a Zealot would be is sneaky, unless you're doing like a Death Cult Assassin style thing. But I would have way preferred some kind of horde clearing option, something that goes into large multi-enemy killed swings or flamers or something. But yes, the Zealot has the classic watch as I run in and somehow kill everything I see in melee or just die immediately. The Overwatch Genji syndrome. The middle ability, Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude, is a really interesting one as a general channel support ability for you and your team. The Zealot truly feels like so long as I keep murdering everybody, nobody can kill me. Nobody can be a witness if nobody's there to witness. And it's pretty fascinating to see how they go through all the options.
Essentially
the
him
Ogren is also wildly changed in a lot of great ways. Firstly, you have Big Friendly Rock, the best ability of the entire game. It replaces your grenade with a big rock, and it's just never not fun.
Yeah, I'll check them out. I'll definitely check them out.
The next thing I see is getting a rock in the face. I don't care what kind of enemy it is. Sup?
Knee pad looks good.
Well, I don't want to do the Ogren grenade because I have Ogren rock. Beat scissors. He also has the box of grenades, but they always explode now. And then you have the nuke. If you thought like, oh my god, how could I ever not use the rock every single time? They somehow found a way by giving you the Ogren nuke. It's a gigantic bomb with an astronomical radius. It's so silly in the best of ways. Of course, you still have your bull charge, but you also have a massive AoE taunt ability, making you a pretty serious tank as well as keeping enemies off your team's backs.
I should look at the book is what I should do.
It's ranged, but god damn does it help divert problems. Then you have your brand new point blank barrage. Basically, pull out your gun and proceed to never stop firing into the enemy. And the more you shoot, the better it is. And the more you shoot, the more fun it is. The Ogren changes are really good. I like them quite a lot. I think it has probably the most interesting build options out there. Varied and hilarious at the same time. Finally, the Psyker now has a million new abilities, but everyone has diverted themselves to the bees and the dogs with bees and the
dogs with bees in their mouth, and when they bark, they shoot bees at you.
Psyker has a lot of really neat new tools. Smite being one for lightning, and the head
Everyone, I have an announcement.
Yeah, I was. Damn. Alright, we'll go back and paint it white next year when we're fixing it up.
Pop still, but Assail is the obviously strong one, sending out homing darts and just immediately killing everything they touch all throughout the map. It's so good that I think you guys, we're gonna wrap it up here in about 20 minutes. Levels, and so much so that I think it's become
when we hit the 2-hour mark, I'm just gonna paint the black onto the feet and claws and part of the gun, and we should be all right on this guy.
The other, but it feels like it pales in comparison to just Assail spam, which is unfortunate because their update is probably second only to the Ogren's one in terms of great new additions. That said, Smite also seems really, really good as a crowd control option. That kind of gets into the team comp thing when you go to the really high levels, and for the most part, it just seems like in your basic gameplay, a sail is the big winner. I'd say the new class update is the highlight, obviously, but it's also made the game a bit easier than before. If you were playing a lot of level 3s and you're probably doing level 4s now, which is why they add a brand new endgame mission called the Auric Maelstrom. All of the upgrades you get are also just really good and often flat bonuses between the super good ones, so you definitely have been power crept a little bit. The last thing that's been changed is the overall gear stuff. This is a good general change, but it's also it's a bit too complicated for my smooth brain. Getting a gun is one thing, but getting a gun with the right rating is another thing. Plus there is the perks, and there are levels to the perks, and you can replace up to 2 of the 4 perks in total, but in order to get fancy perks, you need to dismantle the exact same weapon with the perk on it already, which makes getting a god roll weapon rather difficult to get unless you luck out, which sometimes you do.
You know what? Give me a melee weapon. I don't care. Oh shit! Savage Sweep.
I'm gonna change it because
3 enemies with an attack increases your clean.
I don't really care for the video game video. I want to see lore videos, lore stuff happening. Looting's cool. I want something a little shorter though. A little shorter. We're not trying to be here for an hour. Well, we could be, but telling you my eyes are straining. We're getting there. And we'll pick it up again next week. Maybe we'll do a second video this week. Yo, Star Wars Marvel Purist, what's up, buddy?
So let's talk through every single Space Marine on with a basic
we're doing it. We're painting a little bit of Warhammer homies.
Game power. Jumping straight into it, let's start with the obvious.
We're getting into it. We're doing it. Corn dogging it up.
On the tactical.
As always, I can never get myself enough corn dogs. How are you doing? I appreciate you having me on yesterday, man. Congratulations again on your 1-year anniversary. Anybody that's down for Star Wars and Marvel back in the day when they were great, check out Star Wars Marvel Purist. Subscribe. He's a homie and he does good.
Warhammer 40K is a...
How was the birthday, corn dog? Sign me up. No, your birthday, bro. Your birthday was great. The corn dog with the candle is for you, man. We're looking for a good video about lore that's not too long. I don't want no 3-minute video either, like these are. Weird Space Marine chapters you need to know about.
I face you at last.
We'll do that one. West Hammer again. It's only 26 minutes, so that's better. But you ate it. I sure did. I can't just let a corn dog chill there and get cold. I had to handle that guy. No, it was good, dude. Good birthday, corn dog.
Warhammer 40K is a franchise that is absolutely chock full of secretive and mysterious factions that most of the community doesn't even know exist. Now, Space Marines are no exception to this, as although most of us can probably name the 18 different Space Marine legions,
to be there again
it's
next
a rare individual that can name all of the hundreds of chapters and or warbands that either currently exist or have existed at some point in the history of the Imperium.
Taking off,
and if I'm being completely honest with you, most of those obscure chapters that don't get talked about nearly enough end up being way more interesting than the ones that we all already know about.
Damn.
So today
every time I hear a name, it's like, oh yeah, that was it. But yeah, dude, thank you for stopping through. Thank you for hanging out. I will catch you on the next one. Maybe we'll do another one in a couple days. But yeah, for sure. At least next Tuesday we'll definitely be doing more painting.
And for their own protection,
I appreciate you,
their
man. Thanks for
minds
coming
have to
by.
be completely wiped after each and every engagement. A Space Marine chapter that suffers from a genetic defect.
All right, you guys, we just gotta paint the hoofs,
to grow out of control,
the claws,
manifesting
and
into
the
razor-sharp
little bit of the
retractable arm
gun.
blades. A Chaos
And then we'll be
Warband
all right
that, for
on
all
this
intents and purposes, is the Chaos equivalent of the Legion of the Damned. Nobody knows who or what they are, but for some reason, all of the weapons, armor,
Are you just getting into Warhammer? I am, bro. This is my my first box of Warhammer.
And nobody knows how they got
this guy right
and
here.
Finally, we're going to talk about a chapter of Space Marines that
start here,
ritualistically
Warhammer
allows themselves to
40K
be possessed by
introductory
demons.
set.
They They do this in order to exercise them,
and
then
we got it
like to fight against the forces of chaos.
2, 3,
however, it's what they do
like
to the recruits that aren't able to pass this
First
trial.
Tuesday, I put them together, cut them out of the screws, put them together.
We're going to be talking about all that and a whole
last
lot more.
Week,
but first, a quick shout out to this video's sponsor.
Last week we painted them.
And listen, I get it. It's a controversial
well, we painted
sponsor. I
two.
understand that.
We painted 2 of them.
But in my defense, Warhammer is an expensive ass hobby. I'm addicted to plastic crack and audiobooks, and someone's got to pay for all that. And it might as well be them. So roll the tape.
Head game maker Craveplay invites you to play Hyper Fever. Critics call it the most mobile of all mobile games. Build a unique character from a
dude, it's badass. I love it. It's crazy.
Strategy MMO
I can't believe I've been living under a rock for so long. Never heard about it, never knew about it.
Relax with bubble popping as you engage in casual hardcore battle royale. Go.
Yeah, okay, wait a minute. No, cut it out. Stop the tape. Stop the tape.
Hold on.
I can't shill for this. That is the most ridiculous, stupid thing I've ever seen.
My stepdad is all, hey, have you seen that that new Warhammer game? And I was all, yeah, but I'm really not down because it reminds me exactly of Gears of War, the over the shoulder look, the chainsaw swords, the shooting, it all looks like Warhammer, and I'm not really down for, playing a game that ripped off Gears of War, that ripped off Gears of War. And he's all, Warhammer's been around a lot longer than Gears of War. In fact, I think Gears of War was ripped off from Warhammer. I was all, what? No. And then later on that day, he sent me an article saying how Gears of War came from Warhammer. And I just, what? Damn. So I'll give it a shot. I got to check it out a little bit more. So I watched more and I got more into it. And dude, I'm loving it, loving every bit of it. And my stubborn ass could have missed out just because being a stubborn ass. You know what I mean? That's cool. I'd get into, but won't have the time for channel if I did. I definitely hear you, dude. I definitely hear you. Yeah, dude. Have your channel, but see, your channel's dope with what it has, full of information, something to what you would call it. You're giving value to the viewer. Like, I'm not really giving any value over here. I'm just watching stuff, having a good time, and hanging out. If anybody wants to hang out and have a good time with me, I'm down. But you're spitting facts over there at your channel, so yours is where it's at. But I appreciate it. I never knew that. I love Gears of War. I love Gears of War. Yeah, dude, Gears of War was top drawer gaming for me for a long time. I played the hell out of 1, 2, and 3. And I played a good bit of the Judgment one, but I just got Gears of War 5 like 2 months ago. And I haven't played that much. I'm like on chapter 3 right now. Maybe chapter 2. But I definitely got to get back on that. But we're having fun, dude. We're just trying stuff out, figuring things out, experiencing, and hopefully leveling up here soon. You know what I mean? Loving it, bro.
I need an actual good sponsor for my lore videos. Something that's a game that's actually fun to play. A sponsor like Raid Shadow Legends.
Hanging out
if you somehow haven't heard of it yet, Raid Shadow Legends has completely taken over the gaming world, as it's the first
Gears
game
of War
to bring
3. That's pretty much where
to your phone.
I tried the one after that,
champion
and
combinations
I don't really remember it that well. I think I only
raid
played
bosses,
like half
dungeon
of
runs,
it.
campaign battles, and PvP
But yeah, 1, 2, and 3 played the hell out of those.
Over 600 champions. You can build your team and raid your way. No matter who you are, Raid's got a faction that you're going to absolutely fall in love with.
Goggles on to see the
even for someone like me who is super picky and can never really decide if I like Beastmen, Lizardmen, or the Undead more. As Raid has all 3 of them and lets me mix and match as much as I want to get the perfect squad. The big news in Raid this month is Call of the Arbiter, which is going to be super hot. Raid Shadow Legends itself is getting updated with a load of cool new content related to the limited series. We're talking new champions, an artifact set, events, and a whole lot more. There's even a whole load of champion bios that have just been added to the game.
Right.
So if you're someone like me who's obsessed with lore, this is going to be big. With all of this exciting stuff and more coming to Raid, if you haven't started playing yet, then what are you waiting for? Use my link in the description or scan my QR code here on the screen to get insane bonuses. We're talking an epic champion Drake, as well as 4 energy refills, a skill tome, and an XP booster. All of this amazing stuff will be waiting for you right here. So just hit the link in the description and I'll see you on the battlefield. Big thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video.
Yes, sir.
The Warp Ghosts are probably one of the most mysterious chaos-based war bands that currently exist in the lore,
And
Tomorrow
what
we'll
makes
be
them really
playing,
interesting is they
we're
very
not
well
playing,
may
we'll
be
be
one of the
watching
most
Stargate
important as
SG-1
well.
watch
We
party.
really don't know too much about these guys. We don't know what
Stargate
legion they descend
SG-1,
from,
you
what
guys.
time period they were created in, what their
On
ultimate goals and
season 3,
ambitions are, or perhaps
having a
even
good
most
time.
mysteriously,
You're down.
what they even
It's on
are.
Amazon.
Nothing about them seems to
Prime.
make sense, and the best source that we have on them comes from a strange encounter
Friday
during the
we're
Black
gonna watch.
Legion novel
Oh, I'm
by
sorry.
Aaron
Thursday is
Dembski
Halloween, so
I
we'll
don't
be
want to spend
doing
too
a
much time in this video
small,
giving an entire summary of the
small
book.
Twilight
So
Zone
all you need to
marathon.
know is that this takes place before the
And
first
probably a
Black
movie on
Crusade,
top of that.
and Abaddon and his Black Legion are for the
During
very
school,
first
I wonder
time
what
attempting to break free from the
would
Eye of
be
Terror
an
back into
nature-inspired
real
first
space.
team
They're
that
not
would
alone in
work
their
with-
endeavor, as there is a warlord of the Death Guard known as Derevak that is
Oh, the
attempting to
great!
do the
Thank you,
same
bro.
thing.
Thank you for being here. Thank you
Deravak's
for
fleet, by
watching.
comparison,
Appreciate
is
you.
vastly more powerful than Abaddon's. He has more warriors, more ships, and an
Would
enormous
work
amount of
with
resources
them,
at his
I'm
disposal.
guessing
Both of the fleets have
maybe?
become becalmed
Black
in the
and
warp,
yellow, black
right
and
outside
yellow,
of the
black and
entrance of the
yellow.
Eye of Terror.
Maybe,
So
dude.
neither of
I'm
them
down.
can move forward and actually break
Maybe on our
free.
next box
It's
of
then that
Tyranid,
they decide to have a meeting on a
we'll
nearby
change
planet
up
to
the
discuss
colors a little
terms.
bit.
It's not
Yeah,
really
dude, I'm
a
having fun. This is my
parlay, a
first,
peace treaty, or any kind of real
well,
negotiation, as Derevak realizes that
yeah,
Abaddon's
this is my
in no
first
position
experience
to
of the Warhammer.
negotiate. And
We put
Derevak
them
is
together
simply
a couple
here to
weeks
make
ago.
demands.
We painted
He wants
2
ships
last
in
week, and we'll
exchange for
paint the
not
third one
attacking
this
them.
week.
It's during the meeting, however, that something
for the
really
stream. No,
strange
thank you for
happens.
being here,
A new
man.
fleet appears out of
Appreciate
nowhere
you.
in between both of the others.
Was I
Abaddon's
the only
sorcerer,
guy
Iskandar
who
Kane,
just ran
looks up
around with
and
the
remarks that the
chainsaw gun
ships
in
are
multiplayer,
incredibly
and
bizarre.
then
They don't
forgot
really seem to make a
there
lot of
was a
sense.
gun
They have enough in
attached
common with
to the
other
chainsaw.
Imperial ships that they are very
Damn.
clearly of human origin, but none of them are able to recognize what exact pattern
I mean,
they are. They're
no,
not from the
because
present, and they're
I did
not
that
even
too a
from the
lot.
Horus Heresy era.
Totally
They're
spaced
clearly
and
much more
remember, like,
advanced
towards the
and
end of a
almost
level, it's like, oh, I
futuristic.
can't even really
One
use it
by
right here
one,
right now.
every ship in both of the Chaos Fleets reports that they have
Definitely
suddenly
here.
been
We've
boarded,
been there.
which should be impossible, or at least it will require a full-scale assault. But on each and every one of them, a single lone Space Marine in gray armor with no recognizable symbols has appeared out of nowhere. As the reports start to come in, both sides believe that the other has broken their momentary truce, so the high-tension situation is in danger of reaching a breaking point. It's just then that another
Damn, you
one of
guys,
these
I'm
Grey
already doing
Marines
better than I did
appears on
last
the
week.
horizon and starts to walk towards the group. I'm going to read for you the passage
Get
from
too
the Black
cocky,
Legion
son.
novel where this occurs, and just for context, it's Iskandar Kane, Abaddon's personal sorcerer, that is narrating. I looked between the two opposed, confused groups of warriors. One by one, they turned to stare across the dusty garden with its eroded statuary,
Oh, yeah,
where a
guns.
lone warrior walked from the Eldar ruins. He was dead. I thought that at once, as easily if I had seen decaying flesh or smelt the rotting musk
I
of
need the smaller brush,
decomposition.
dude. This
To my sixth sense,
not
he was without a
fine
soul,
enough.
a man disconnected from the mechanisms of life, and yet he walked closer. His armor the light gray of an overcast sky, tinged by the faintest pale green.
Quality content,
his
gotta
eye
go
lenses
good.
red lit from within.
Thanks, dude.
He was no
I
demon.
appreciate you,
Demons
man.
had no souls.
Thank you.
Yet they are presences in the warp. They are the warp itself, and
I
form writhing,
appreciate it,
drifting
you
things
guys.
before my
Thanks
psychic
for being here,
gaze.
everybody.
Yet he was no human. Humans have shining
Yeah,
souls,
we're here to have a good
and they are
time,
beacons of the
relax,
warp's
make
tumultuous
friends,
night.
chill it.
Whatever this warrior was, he walked the line between mortal and immortal, fused with the warp, yet not born from it, saturated by the immaterium, yet not possessed by it. He had a soul. I saw as he drew near, and it was still his own, a weak thing, a dim and shredded light. There
We
was a
do
beauty in
mostly
that.
watch
In the same
parties,
way
but
a
I play
lesser
some
mind,
games here and
reliant
there.
on the five
And,
mundane senses,
yeah, and
might
we're
see
starting some
beauty
painting
in a color
now.
never before seen. Here before me
Will be,
was a kind of entity
the
I
newest
had
addition
never
to the
believed
channel is
possible,
painting.
taking the form of a brother legionary. What legion or chapter had sired him, I could not say. His armor was of a mark unknown to me then, not even matching the newer suits of Aquila pattern battleplate that I had seen aboard the Black Templar's vessel. The Grey Warrior turned his helmed head to each in turn, showing no favor either way. The voice that emerged from his helmet grill was deep, though not unusually so for a legionary, and his words were preceded by a click of vox projection, just as any of our voices were. I am Saronis. Within his words, I heard the telltale flow of respiration. He was dead to my sixth sense, yet alive to all others. My fascination deepened.
Damn, the eye on the gun, you guys. I did such a good job right now on the eye on the gun. Yeah, there's an eye on the gun.
The icon on his pauldron was not one I recognized,
it
but
was
it was
not.
nevertheless
There's an
gravid with symbolism.
Yeah,
Two
the gun is
skulls
alive,
set
I
within
think.
an 8-spiked disc, one looking to the
Wait,
left and the other
yeah,
to the
the
right.
eye has a gun.
An inscription
I'm sorry,
under
the gun
staring
has an
skulls,
eye.
cast in dark silver,
And I actually
written
got
in
it
an
without
unfamiliar
going
dialect of
outside
High
the line,
Gothic,
dude.
in Abysso,
You should
Ptolemus,
see the eyes on these other guns.
The exact
Jeez, can Jeez, can you see that? Look how bad that
but
came
if
out.
you make out its meaning,
Bro,
we bear the souls of the damned through the depths. The conversation that plays out here is admittedly cryptic and mysterious. Now, basically every question that Darovec asks is met with the same line over and over. You speak irrelevancies. How did you reach us undetected? Where do your loyalties lie? Etc., etc. Eventually, Abaddon asks if they will guide them out of the storm, and that gets the warriors' attention. He says that they will if they are willing to meet their price. Cernunnos reveals that him and the other Warp Ghosts' main purpose is to guide other ships out of the Eye of Terror. And what's important to remember here is at this point in the timeline, the first Black Crusade has yet to happen. No Chaos fleet has ever been able to successfully
break free from the Eye of Terror. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. We'll see you next time. We'll be here tomorrow. We'll be here tomorrow.
What they are willing to sacrifice. And the Death Guard leader, who is like a fat, greedy king, tells him that he will give him whatever he wants. Ships, slaves, weapons, it didn't matter. He was so confident in his ability to utterly destroy the fledgling Black Legion that he would take them from his enemies and give them to the newcomers. Cernunnos acknowledges this and then turns to Abaddon and asks him the same question. After consulting with his sorcerer, Abaddon realizes that a sacrifice means nothing unless the individual is truly giving up something of value. A sacrifice was meant to hurt you. Giving something meaningless or something taken from another was just an offering. He speaks his offering to Cernunnos, and after hearing his words, 50 more legionaries of the Warp Ghosts materialize out of nowhere. They point their guns at Darovec, telling him that his offer had been refused, and that they would be assisting Abaddon and the Black Legion. We don't get to see what that sacrifice is until later in the book, but it's revealed that Abaddon was willing to give them bodies, flesh, living beings, and specifically those of Psykers within the Black Legion and the Psyker children of the fleet's human slaves. It is believed that whatever the Warp Ghosts actually are, they do not have bodies of their own and must inhabit living flesh that will eventually rot and decay. Thus, they need a steady supply of other psychically gifted individuals with which to bond with. The White Seer, Ashur Kai, being one of the sorcerers that willingly agrees to go with Cernunnos and the Warp Ghosts. And mysteriously enough, although it's not directly confirmed here, it's
the bottom of the foot. I almost forgot the bottom of the
was
foot,
actually the future self of Ashur Kai. To this day, we still don't have a very clear picture of what exactly the Warp Ghosts are, just that they're a mysterious spectral chaos warband that exists somewhere between life and death, and has been instrumental in escorting Chaos fleets out of the Eye of Terror. Whatever their ultimate goal is still remains a mystery, but if it hadn't been for them, then the Black Crusades could never have happened. Although the exact nature of the Warp Ghost is still unclear, the true nature of another chapter known as the Black Dragons is much more glaringly obvious, and it's one the Inquisition is not happy about.
Welcome to the Credit Karmaverse. Here we monitor your finances and alert you to changes big and small, so you can enjoy less stress and more peace of mind. Simply scan
so for next week what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to mount this little camera right here. This one.
Looking for
I'm going to try to mount this guy up somewhere above so you're looking down, or at least from my, like, maybe right in front of me, behind me, zooming in or something. Because like I'm looking at it and the stream looks alright, but I feel like it could be better.
You've got to be Metallic's Pink Passion. Bold radiance that lasts, so you can own your color.
Alright, I think...
Why does Special K have all those vitamins and minerals?
So one of these Tyranids has like...
Your body thanks you, big guy.
He's like stepping on a rock. Should I paint the rock or should I like just leave it for now because it'll be, I don't know, brown one day
with
at a later
50%
point?
off fall decor from Hobby Lobby. Autumn is the perfect time to cozy up your home with harvest-inspired decor and accents that radiate.
Mutation is something the Imperium doesn't tend to look on fondly, and when it comes to the Space Marines, random mutation is something normally reserved for members of the Traitor Legions that have had prolonged exposure to the corrupting influence of the Warp. However, this is not always the case, and in fact, the Loyalist chapter known as the Black Dragons, a successor of the Salamanders created during the cursed 21st founding, is perhaps the best example of a mutant legion of Space Marines that has remained vehemently loyal to the Imperium. Although technically not all members of the chapter share these mutations, and many of them are indistinguishable from other salamanders, some of which not even sharing their characteristic jet black skin. A large percentage of them suffer from a defect in one of their implants known as the osmedulla, an organ that secretes hormones that affect the ossification of a Space Marine skeletal system and aid in the forming of new bone growth. During their development, this thing drastically alters the way in which an Astartes' bones grow.
That sounds
causing
crazy,
them to
you
increase
guys.
in size and strength, as well as fusing their ribcage into a solid bulletproof mass
Wow.
of interlocking plates. In the Black Dragons, however, the implant has gone completely berserk. Not only has it caused many of their members to grow to a size much larger than a typical Space Marine with far denser bones, but most peculiar of all, the organ seemingly doesn't know where to stop. The bones just keep on developing, becoming most visible in the form of outgrowths in the Marine's skull, and long bladed bones that jut out of their forearms. Bone blades that for many of the Black Dragons are actually retractable. A lot of their members even sport other dragon-like features, such as elongated fangs and black scaly skin. The inside of their mouth is also said to be completely black, including their lips and inner cheeks, while also sporting a tongue that tapers into a point like a lizard's. The individuals that have been inflicted with such mutation are formed together in assault teams known as Dragon Claws. They sharpen their bone blades to a killing edge, and then sheathe them in adamantium to turn them into incredibly deadly
Henry Badger, what's up, buddy?
The
Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Yo, where did you get that headpiece from?
To fight alongside them due to their obvious
it was
signs
hooked up by a family member,
and
but
it should go without saying that the Inquisition is definitely not fans of the chapter.
No,
they stretch their tolerance for mutation nearly to a breaking point.
It's like for jewelry, dude.
Required to
So like
submit a
jewelry
tithe of
people
their
use
gene seed
this.
to the Adeptus
It's got
Mechanicus. Most often this serves as an emergency backup if a chapter ever takes devastating
I'll show
losses
you.
and is on the brink of extinction.
It's got like
Whereas
two
it also
little
serves a
things
more
where
practical
it
purpose,
can
in that the Mechanicus
so it's
can
got, like,
monitor the
one-
genetic health of the chapter.
It's got three
as well as
magnifiers, I
screen for
guess.
corruption.
3.
Now, here's
It's got
the weird
one
thing
there
about the Black
always.
Dragons.
Then on the
Despite
inside,
their
you have
obvious
another one that you
mutation
flip
and their
down.
reluctance to hand
and
over
it
any
attaches to
genetic
the front,
samples,
so that's a second
without
one.
fail.
And
Every
then
single
for
time they
one
have ever submitted
eye,
their
you
gene
get
seed,
the
it has passed every single genetic
one
purity
that
test the
goes
Mechanicus
right
can throw
over
at it.
the other
From
one.
the perspective of somebody just analyzing the data, there is no corruption or
It does a
mutation
pretty good
at
job.
all within the Black Dragons, which obviously doesn't make sense considering they have
But
giant
it's,
bone blades
yeah,
growing
they
out of
work
their
for jewelry,
arms and
but
horns
works
sprouting out of their
perfectly
head.
for the minis.
So what exactly is going on here? Well, many believe
I also
that this
have
is
a helping
only
hand.
possible because the Black Dragons specifically are altering their own gene seed in order
The
to
magnifying
encourage these
glass
mutations,
on a
as
stand
they
with a
don't
couple
view
of
it as
roach
a
clips.
negative. They don't do this with all of their members, and thus the gene seed they send back is taken from individuals who
I
have
always
not
put
been
the
subjected to
mini
the practice.
on the
As
roach
far as I'm
clip
aware, this is just a
hold this,
rumor, and we
taking
don't
it from
actually
there.
know the truth. On one hand, it calls into question
Sweet,
what
looks
exactly a
useful as
mutant
heck. Little
is,
sub
because
Tia,
one could
thanks
also
for
make the
showing me.
argument
Yeah,
that
thanks,
every
bro.
single
Thanks for
Space
the
Marine
sub.
could
I
be seen as
appreciate
a
it, man.
mutant based on
Yeah,
all
we
the implants
do
and genetic
Warhammer painting
augmentation
once
they
a
have
week,
undergone.
but
You
we'll
don't see
probably
regular
start
old
doing it a little
people
more
running
often.
around spitting acid at each
Maybe
other.
a second
But
time a
considering
week.
that
We
these are
usually do
traits that
watch
the Emperor
parties, though.
designed
We
personally,
usually watch
they
movies here.
are
I mean,
not
you gotta
seen as
find the movie on your
mutations, but
own.
the blessed holy
Usually
work
it's on Netflix
engineered by
or
the
Amazon
divine.
Prime that I do.
Although the
but
Black Dragons view
toss
their
a movie
mutation
on,
as a
like,
badge
have
of
a timer
honor,
on the
the
TV,
defect can quickly become a
and then,
curse in extreme
yeah, just
situations,
follow
as
along
within the
with me
bowels
if you
of their
like.
ship are
What's
huge,
going all out?
muscled,
Love to see it.
slavering
Thanks,
black
man. I
dragons
appreciate it,
that
bro.
are stuck in a permanent predatory
Yeah, we're
rage.
doing it right
They
here.
have mutated
We're almost-
into abominations,
We're almost done. We're just getting
resembling
the last
full-blown
black
dragon
layer
men,
on
and are
for
chained
the
up to
hoofs,
be
the
released on
claws,
the
and the
battlefield
gun.
to find final
And
peace
we're
in
going
a
to be wrapping
frenzied
it up here
suicide mission.
soon.
It's honestly pretty similar to what happens to the Blood
Yeah, dude, this is
Angels when
fun.
they lose
This is my
themselves
first
to the
time
Red
doing
Thirst.
Warhammer.
Despite the fact that
Well, we
I'm
started
sure
a couple
they would
weeks
really
ago,
like
but
to, the
we put them
Inquisition
we
so
put them
far
together
has
a
not
couple weeks
declared them
ago.
excommunicate Traitoris. But if they
And
were to see what lies
we
within the dark
started
corners
the
of their
painting
ships,
last week.
let's say the
We did
resulting
2 of them in like
consequences
4
would
hours.
not go well for them.
So this
Although
this week I
accusations
thought,
of
okay, we'll
heresy
do
have been thrown
one
at the
in
Black
about
Dragons
2
more
hours,
times
and
than
we'll see how
anyone
it
could
goes.
possibly count. The truth is that they are
Yeah,
one
dude,
of the
we're
most fiercely loyal
just
chapters in
about
existence,
there.
and time again have demonstrated an almost fanatical resolve to protect the lives of the innocent. Such is the curse of being a Black Dragon, to vehemently defend an Imperium that doesn't appreciate them. If the Black Dragons are a chapter that is hated and feared by the Inquisition, then the Red Hunters fall on the
Dude,
completely
super
opposite end of the
sick. I love it.
spectrum. They are a chapter that is believed to have been made in
Love
the
this.
31st millennium during the Second Founding. But other than that, pretty much everything about their lineage is unknown. We don't know how many of them there are,
I've always
what
liked
legion they are
sketching
descended
and
from,
drawing.
or
Never,
even where their
you know,
fortress
never that
monastery
good at
is
it, but
located. When we
when you're
think
in
of Space Marines
class,
in the
bored
Inquisition,
with
we often gravitate
ADD, you
towards
start,
the Grey
you know,
Knights
playing
working
with your
alongside the
pencil
Ordo
and
Malleus, or
start
the Death Watch
sketching
working
on-
with Ordo Xenos. In both of those cases, however,
sketching
those
on your
chapters
notepad,
are
your
their own
little
unique entities
families with goals and ambition that just often coincide with the Inquisition.
Book?
Thus, they frequently work together and are often honor-bound to serve the Inquisition when they call for them. The Red Hunters, on the other hand, seemingly exist solely to be a tool of high-ranking inquisitorial lords. It's believed that they were originally created right after the Horus Heresy, with the primary objective of hunting down and destroying the traitor legions. And over time,
The chapter itself has come to be almost synonymous with the
I came out of the
Inquisition,
lines
as
a
they are
little bit on the
routinely called upon to
face.
face the servants of
We're
the
gonna fix
ruinous
that next
powers
week when
and
we
other
can,
enemies of mankind too horrible to mention. It's an uncomfortable reality that the Inquisition will often mind wipe or, in some extreme circumstances, completely purge entire regiments of Imperial Guard or other Imperial forces after they've witnessed the horrors of a full-blown demonic incursion, in order to keep such unholy knowledge from spreading. The things the Red Hunters are thrown up against make something like this look like child's play, and are said to be so utterly terrifying that the chapter itself is not immune to the practice of mind wiping. In fact, that's where a lot of their mysterious nature comes from, as the Line Brethren of the chapter are routinely subject to mind wiping, a process that preserves their soul and any and all physical abilities, while sacrificing their memories, skills, experience, and personality. Because of this practice, the Red Hunters have been honed into an absolutely ruthless and brutal chapter, with no higher goals or ambitions than to serve as an unfaltering blade for the Inquisition. Fun fact, the vehicles they use are absolutely covered in battle honors due to the numerous missions they've been used in. However, many of them have been deliberately scrubbed away, and of the ones that remain, there are no records to indicate what operations they were awarded for. It's a secret to everyone, even the Red Hunters that helm those war machines. Every glory they achieve and every victory they earn is wiped from the minds of those who brought it into fruition. All records of such engagements are purged, and they're not even permitted to be recorded in the chapter's archives. This isn't to say that no records of the chapter exist, as they have fought alongside many other chapters during particularly pivotal campaigns, such as the Siege of Vrax. But the truth of their most secretive and brutal solo missions, as well as the knowledge of the enemies they have fought against that are too unthinkable to be even allowed to exist as a memory, are facts about the chapter we probably will never know. The Red Hunters exist as a chapter that has borne witness to the terrifying eldritch truth of the universe, and subsequently had it stripped from them, as any who would hold on to these terrible secrets would inevitably descend into a bottomless pit of madness and insanity.
Good stuff. I'm down. We'll see how long we got left in this video.
At home, deck it all with holiday decor, Christmas trees, outdoor inflatables, and more. Every room,
commercials.
every style, every season,
Oh, I touched the black something somewhere. I got black on my finger. Damn you. All right, we're gonna have to fix that. Or was it though?
Why do you wrestle? When people look at me, the first thing they see is what's missing.
Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, the Exorcist chapter is one that goes in the completely opposite direction, specifically seeking out such terrifying truths in order to steel themselves against the corrupting nature of chaos. The Exorcists are a dark and brooding chapter of Space Marines, famous for the remarkable feat of them being virtually immune to corruption. Such a powerful ability in the grim darkness of the far future does not come for free, as what they have to go through in order to achieve this is admittedly pretty horrifying. The Exorcists are one of a handful of chapters that can trace their origin back to the mysterious 13th founding or the Dark Founding, depending on who you ask, as most historical records of this obscure event are often contradictory. Even the Astartes within the chapter can't really be sure about the truth of their origins, and those who do have such knowledge
but it took me so long to like get it this way. I kind of like it this way.
Which, considering this chapter is famously known for binding demons
I got to do something else to change it around, so I end up changing it, and then I don't like it, so I change it again.
Makes a lot of sense. If any Imperial agent ever found out what they were doing, the entire chapter would immediately be denounced as heretics. Because of the secrecy and the fact that the Exorcists tend to show up whenever there is a large-scale demonic incursion, this has caused them to be seen with a lot of mistrust by other chapters, especially those of the Black Templar, which is ironic considering that both chapters are successors of the Imperial Fists and share the same Primarch, Rogel Dorn. In truth, they were one of the earliest Codex-compliant chapters derived from the Imperial Fists, and they quickly distinguished themselves as worthy scions of that legacy. They were adaptable and excelled in many different strategic challenges, whether that be fighting alongside other members of the Imperium, or setting off on their own brutal crusades to bring death and destruction to the enemies of the Emperor. The chapter's history, however, would suddenly take a violent turn on the world of Totem 4, and their destiny would be changed forever. The world had been beset by demons of Tzeentch, and the Exorcists were one of the first to arrive to defend the planet. Shortly after landing, they immediately found themselves bombarded from every direction by demons. Yet, whether through a quirk in their genetics or by the divine protection of the Emperor himself,
they were somehow able to overcome the pervasive corrupting touch of the sorcerers and demons upon this world.
Oh yeah, you
Enraged
guys.
by the Exorcist's ability to ward off the mutagenic gifts of Tzeentch, one of his greater demons threw his entire psychic essence into the mind of the Exorcist chapter master Enoch. Although at first it seemed like the demon had successfully possessed the chapter master, within his mind, the chapter master warred against the demon in a battle of wills, putting his own defenses to the test. This took a grave toll on his psyche, but in return, he was gifted with profound insights into the weaknesses of his foe, and his latent psychic ability even came into full bloom. In a feat of immense mental strength, he was able to reach out far away to his chief librarian, and the two of them managed to banish the parasitic demon from real space. Even for somebody like a Space Marine chapter master,
finish up this video
banishing a greater demon that had possessed somebody like this was a really big deal, and it caught the attention of a radical inquisitorial sect known as the Plutonians. They had already developed suspicions around the chapter based on their unnatural spiritual resilience, and going so far as to have their own spies infiltrate the chapter as one of their serfs. After receiving the spy's report on what had happened on Totem 4, the Plutonians moved quickly to relieve the chapter master of duty, capturing and interrogating him for months. It was only after a long period of interrogation, when no corruption was ultimately detected, that he was able to return to his chapter. However, during those months, the Plutonians revealed to Enoch their own crazy theories about possession, how it worked, and how it might be able to be used as a weapon against chaos. You see, the Plutonians believed that by allowing one to be possessed,
2 hours,
they could
not
gain
too
valuable
long, not
insight
too
into the
short.
nature of demons and how better to combat them. Although the theory did make some kind of sense, in practice, it was pretty impractical. It was nearly impossible for somebody to completely rid themselves of a demon's presence after they had become possessed. What the chapter master had managed to do was nearly unthinkable. But if the other members of the Exorcist had even a fraction of his spiritual resistance, they might just be able to turn this theory into reality. Enoch agreed with their theories and, in secret, struck a treaty with the Plutonians, pledging himself and his brothers to their cause. Through their combined efforts on the Exorcist homeworld of Banish, they conducted a program where in a foreboding factory known as the Halls of Tempering, each and every new Exorcist recruit, as well as all of the existing warriors, would be purposefully subjected to being possessed by a demon. Admittedly, these demons that were used were not quite on the same level as the one that had possessed the chapter master, but they were still incredibly powerful in their own right. After the possession was allowed to take place, the Inquisitors would monitor the situation carefully, before eventually driving the demon out and returning the host to the chapter for recovery and reflection. This is a practice that continues to this day, and most Exorcist recruits are forced to banish the demon on their own. Those who are able to emerge triumphantly from this incredibly disturbing trial are rendered somehow even more fearless and resilient to demonic corruption. The possession gives each battle brother their own personal revelation into the nature of demon kind, which will serve them in all future engagements against the ruinous powers. We don't know the full extent of what the procedure does to any member of the Exorcist, but they maintain a stony silence on all matters of chapter training and tradition. Willingly allowing yourself to be possessed by a demon in order to subsequently banish it and emerge more powerful than before is a pretty gnarly process when you stop to think about what they're actually going through. However, this is not the worst part of it, not by a long shot. You see, not all of the chapter's aspirants end up being successful, but it's important to note that if they've reached this point in their training, then they have received the chapter's gene seed and thus their innate spiritual resilience, making their bodies the perfect containment units for demonic entities. The chapter reasons that if these brothers are not able to serve them on the battlefield, then they will serve as a living jail cell for hundreds of different demonic entities. These individuals become so saturated with warp spawn that they are sustained in a state of deathless torture, their bodies enduring for centuries while their minds break apart. The Exorcists refer to them as the Broken Ones, and will serve as a containment unit for all of the harvested demons that the other initiates are able to successfully banish from their own bodies. This prevents the demons from returning to the warp and revealing the chapter's secrets to all the hostile sentients within the Immaterium. The Broken Ones are closely guarded by the chapter, as if any one of them was ever able to escape, the results would be absolutely catastrophic. And those were 4 of the coolest and most obscure chapters of Space Marines that not enough people know about. Which one was your favorite and why? Do you think the Exorcists binding demons to themselves is ultimately a good idea, or do you think it's going to end up having some disastrous consequences in the future? Also, what about the Warp Ghosts? What do you think they actually are? Are they Chaos Space Marines from the future, Chaos Legion of the Damned, or something else entirely? Also, what's your favorite obscure chapter of Space Marines that you don't think gets nearly enough attention? Let me know all of your thoughts and ideas down in the comments section. I plan on making this into a regular series, so what chapters would you love to hear me talk about? This video ended up taking a little bit longer than I meant it to, so if I'm being honest with you, it's 5.
That's all right. That's all right. Thank you. You guys, well, that was it. We did it. We painted. We handled some termagants. We're going to wrap it up. Turn that off. Turn this off. Cool, dude. Well, you guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out while we did some painting. Everybody that was here, Star Wars Marvel Purist, Henry Badger, Bella Truth, Marcus, The Great, Cybernac, Germ Graves, Ubi, Socrates, Squall Rush, my guy. Who else was here? The Great. Take care. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you, man. We'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow. We're gonna do the Stargate watch party, Stargate SP1. And then Thursday, at Halloween, we're gonna do Twilight Zone mini marathon and maybe a movie or two. We'll see how we feel and how it goes. See, Friday we'll catch another movie because that's how we do. Saturday we're catching another movie too. Fridays and Saturdays we usually catch movies. And then Sunday probably nothing. Monday we'll be back with Monster Monday. We're going to continue our Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Digimon watch parties. And Tuesday, as far as I'm concerned, back to painting. Might throw another painting stream here before then, but probably not. But maybe. But thank you guys for being here. All the lurkers, all the new subs. Thank you guys. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being here. We'll have our snacks and our drinks next time. Let me just double check I didn't miss anybody. Area 51, my favorite dude. If you guys want to check out Area 51, he plays games also on YouTube. You want to subscribe to him or check him out, and then you decide if you want to subscribe to him. Same with Ubi's cousin. Anybody that wants to shout out their name that they do, YouTube stuff or any kind of content creator stuff, throw it up there. I'll check it out. All right, you guys. Well, thank you guys for being here and hanging out. I appreciate you guys. We will be back tomorrow. And yeah, dude, keep doing good. The goal is to do a little bit better than yesterday. I'll catch you guys tomorrow on the next one. Peace.